Suddenly, the Phoenix demon felt a sharp pain in his chest. The pain penetrated to his bones. His previously unconscious mind unexpectedly gained a moment of clarity. He heard, "There's not much time left. Quickly extract the celestial bone from his body. If we miss the timing, we'll have to wait 50 years until the next blood moon." He immediately recognized this voice. It belonged to the person he trusted most, who had now become his executioner. He half opened his eyes, and in his hazy vision, he saw that familiar, beautiful face. The corner of her lips was slightly raised, with a ghostly, bloodthirsty, cold smile. "I've been drinking his blood for 10 years. His celestial bone shouldn't reject me." Upon hearing this, the Phoenix demon's entire body shook violently. His frame trembled uncontrollably. A chill ran from his feet straight to his heart. It was only at this moment that he understood their true purpose. It was for the celestial bone within his body. She was originally the young lady of the Phoenix Manor, raised in luxury from childhood. She also had loving parents, but when she was 3 years old, they went to war and never returned. She lost both parents in one day, becoming an orphan from then on. Because of this, her grandfather doted on her immensely, granting her every wish and treasuring her like a precious pearl. At that time, he was still young and craved familial affection. He deliberately tried to please his second uncle's family, but this only brought his second uncle's displeasure, his aunt's cold stares, and mockery from his cousin. "These are my parents, not yours. You're a jinx who caused your parents' death. Stay away from us." Later on, his second uncle and aunt suddenly became caring towards him, as if trying to make up for the parental love he had lost. His cousin's previously terrible attitude also changed, acting like a good older sister. She pampered and yielded to him, letting him choose the best clothes and jewelry first. When his second uncle's family was kind to her, she considered them her everything and treated them with utmost sincerity. So when his second uncle and aunt tearfully told her that Feng Qingwei had an incurable disease and needed the blood of a close relative as a medicinal catalyst, she agreed without hesitation. To treat Feng Qingwei's illness, he would give blood once every 7 days to brew medicine for Feng Qingwei. After 10 years, his body had become so weak and frail, depleted of both qi and blood. It turned out that all of this had been premeditated by them, only because at the age of 6, he was found to have been born with a celestial bone. But because he couldn't cultivate, the celestial bone had become useless. In the dark dungeon, cold and damp, the Phoenix demon's hands were bound by heavy iron chains. Having not eaten for a long time, he was extremely weak, his consciousness muddled, approaching death. Feng Yuqing kept urging Feng Qingwei to act quickly. He had to be alive to extract the celestial bone. Once he died, the celestial bone would disappear. The loss of blood made the Phoenix demon's mind even hazier. In his peripheral vision, he saw Feng Qingwei forming hand seals, her hands glowing with a red light. Feng Qingwei slowly raised her left hand. She took out a dagger and cut her right palm. Fresh blood immediately seeped out. She quickly placed her right hand on the Phoenix demon's chest. As their blood mixed and intertwined, a dazzling golden light shone from the Phoenix demon's chest. The golden light illuminated Feng Qingwei's face. Her eyes brimmed with excitement. Her delicate body beneath her robes trembled with excitement. "It's the celestial bone. It's the celestial bone." Feng Yuqing, seeing this, also had an excited expression. He urged eagerly, "Wearer, quickly absorb it into your body." Feng Qingwei nodded excitedly. They saw that dazzling piece of bone slowly emerge from the Phoenix demon's body, entering Feng Qingwei's palm. It traveled along her hand and into her body. Feng Qingwei took a deep breath, unable to suppress the excitement in her eyes. Feng Yuqing was equally excited. "Wearer, quickly activate your star soul power and see." Feng Qingwei nodded excitedly. She formed hand seals, and a white, faint star soul array rose from beneath her feet. In the center was a yellow star pillar. 9 yellow stars flickered on the star pillar, representing her strength as a first-rank 9-star warrior. The yellow star pillar represented the level of her star soul. This delighted Feng Qingwei immensely. The power of the celestial bone is indeed strong. "Good, good." Feng Yuqing couldn't contain his excitement. "Wearer, the hope of our Feng family rests on you now." Feng Qingwei withdrew her star soul power and looked at the Phoenix demon, who was now barely breathing and on the brink of death. She chuckled softly, crouching in front of the Phoenix Demon. Grabbing his hair, she said, "I should thank you, you know. Without your blood nourishing me for 10 years, I wouldn't have been able to merge with your celestial bone." The Phoenix Demon's eyes were half closed, his gaze cold, glaring at her with hatred. Finally, he fell into complete darkness. Feng Qingyue smirked coldly and said, "Someone throw him into Black Dragon Pool, 50 miles away." In the shadowy forest, 2 servants carried the Phoenix Demon's body, complaining as they walked. "The young miss is truly pitiful." As soon as the old master went into seclusion, she met with misfortune. Saying this, they jointly threw the Phoenix Demon's body into Black Dragon Pool and quickly turned to leave. In the moment of falling, the Phoenix Demon seemed to return to darkness. The once close relatives were now just passing clouds, not a nightmare. I hate myself for being so naive and foolish. At the bottom of Black Dragon Pool, a flood dragon lay coiled, glancing at the small, thin figure falling. It lazily said, "Too skinny. Eating it wouldn't even be worth a tooth. Might as well throw it to the spiders." Suddenly, a brilliant golden light radiated from that small figure. It was like iron chains firmly locking the flood dragon, causing it to struggle constantly in the pool. Just then, the Phoenix Demon suddenly awoke and sat up. "Where's this place?" Memories instantly flooded back. He had been tricked by his second uncle's family, and they had cruelly extracted his celestial bone. Is this the afterlife? He looked at his own body. The wound on my chest is gone. There was a loud thud as the weakly spiraling flood dragon fell heavily in front of the Phoenix Demon. "Oh my!" The Phoenix Demon retreated in fright. "What is this thing?" The flood dragon asked in a low voice. "Are you that female corpse? Did you drag me here?" The flood dragon still couldn't move. It instantly transformed into human form and introduced itself. "I'm the black dragon of this pool, named Ziyuan. Who are you?" The Phoenix Demon, frightened by what had just happened, curled up there, still not having reacted. Then, seeing his posture, rushed over in 2 quick steps. He pressed directly against the Phoenix Demon's forehead, almost kissing him. Startled, the Phoenix Demon pushed Ziyuan away. "What are you trying to do?" "Hee. Your name is Feng Yao, and you're the young lady of a wealthy family." Feng Yao touched his forehead. "You can read my memories?" Ziyuan chuckled. "You were deceived for 10 years, had your celestial bone extracted, and were dumped in this black pool. You're really foolish and pitiful. Go ahead and laugh at yourself. You and I are both lost souls in this pool." "What lost souls? You think you're dead? You're still alive. This isn't the netherworld. The reason you're lying here is that your body still has a breath of life left." Feng Yao was shocked. He was still alive? Thinking about his current situation, he wasn't far from death's door. Ziyuan said, "You want revenge. You're unwilling to accept this, so you're holding on to that last breath." Feng Yao looked at Ziyuan. "So what? My celestial bone is gone." Ziyuan was silent for a moment, then said, "You've lost your celestial bone, but you still have the celestial root. It's the power of this root that pulled me to you. Your second uncle's family is truly short-sighted." Feng Yao asked, puzzled, "What does that mean?" "It means that if you strengthen yourself through training, a new celestial bone will grow from the root, even stronger than before." Feng Yao lowered his head and sighed. "Even if I survive this ordeal, I don't know how to train." Ziyuan extended a helping hand and said, "You don't know, but I do." Feng Yao fell into deep thought. Who can I trust now? At this moment, Ziyuan knelt on one knee. "As long as we cooperate, I can definitely lend you a hand." Feng Yao looked at Ziyuan. He remembered his sister was like this back then. He instantly turned away, losing interest. "I don't trust anyone." Ziyuan smiled slightly and directly grabbed Feng Yao's hand. "I'm not as heartless as your cousin. Don't worry, I'm a dragon. I'm not interested in your celestial root. I've just been in this pool bottom for too long, and I'm tired of it. Perhaps fate sent you to pull me out of this abyss. Why don't we cooperate and sign a contract? You help me out of the abyss, I help you get revenge." Feng Yao thought, since ancient times, demon beasts have been extremely proud and unwilling to submit to humans, let alone this 1,000-year-old flood dragon. Before Feng Yao could react, the flood dragon used all its strength to transform into a bracelet on Feng Yao's wrist. It was this power that propelled Feng Yao out of the pool bottom. At this time, 2 people in a forest heard a loud noise and rushed over. Seeing a woman lying there, they shouted, "There's someone here! Quick, come over! Everyone, take a look. It's her. Quickly, carry her back." Sunlight shone through the window. Feng Yao slowly opened her eyes. She heard someone say, "Quickly, go ask the master to come." Feng Yao murmured softly, "Where is this?" This is a village not far from Dragonpool. These are all your grandfather's people, busy trying to save you. Feng Yao looked at Ziyuan on her wrist and asked, My grandfather? Yes, I can see your grandfather cares about you a lot. I've helped heal your wounds, but your constitution is too weak. You need nourishment to recover your energy. At this moment, a familiar and affectionate voice came from outside the door. Little one. Feng Yao quickly sat up. Grandfather. Grandfather hugged Feng Yao, crying, Yaoer, I've let you suffer. Feng Yao looked at her grandfather with grievance. You don't need to say it. I know everything that happened. It's grandfather's fault. I didn't take good care of you after your parents died. I never imagined your second uncle would be so cruel to you. Grandfather, it's not your fault. I was too foolish and got deceived for 10 years. From the beginning, second uncle and his family never treated me as family. They only coveted the power of my celestial bone. Little one, your survival from this great calamity must be due to your parents' protection from the afterlife. Your grandfather, Feng Lai, promises you this matter won't end here. I will make sure your second uncle's family pays the price. 7 days had passed. Her body had almost recovered. It was time to return to the Feng mansion. That day, thunder rumbled and lightning flashed, with a fine drizzle. The main gate of the Feng mansion was open, with faint sounds of crying coming from inside. Arriving in the courtyard, the crying grew louder, mixed with talking and angry accusations. How can you be such incompetent servants? If not for your negligence, how could Yao Yao have fallen off the cliff? Feng Qingwei cried, tears streaming down her face. Father, it's my fault. I couldn't stand my sister's nagging and took her to offer incense. We encountered bandits, causing the carriage to fall off the cliff. Her remains are still missing. Feng Lai glanced at the overly attentive Feng Qingwei, his face showing extreme disappointment. Feng Yuqing said, Wearer, how foolish of you. Yao Yao couldn't cultivate, had no star soul power, and no ability to protect herself. Your meager martial arts couldn't protect her either. You shouldn't have agreed to her unreasonable request. It's simply reckless. If Feng Yao hadn't seen the cruelty of Feng Yuqing and Feng Qingwei with her own eyes, she would have almost believed they were truly concerned and grieving for her. Feng Yao suddenly pushed open the door. Sparks flew in the air, startling everyone. A cold, emotionless voice was heard. Wasn't I supposed to be dead? It's a ghost. Feng Yuqing stared at Feng Yao with wide eyes as she slowly walked in. Feng Qingwei screamed. Feng Yao's eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Feng Yao closed her umbrella with authority, her gaze fixed on her second uncle's family. I'm not dead yet, and you're already burning paper money for me here. Feng Yuqing was startled. Wasn't she dead? Her celestial bone was removed, and she was thrown into the black dragon pool. With such severe injuries, how is she fine now? After the shock, Feng Yuqing came to his senses. He nudged Feng Qingwei, who also snapped out of her shock and bewilderment. She rushed towards Feng Yao, starting to act out a scene of sisterly affection. Sister, is it really you? Where have you been all these days? We've been looking for you everywhere, but couldn't find you. We thought you were dead. She cried as if she were a real sister. Feng Yao was at a loss, not knowing how to react to this performance. Yao Yao, is it really you? Feng Lai walked over with trembling steps. As he walked, Feng Yuqing went forward to support Feng Lai. Father, don't get too excited. Just as Feng Yao was looking at her grandfather with concern, suddenly, Feng Qingwei hugged Feng Yao tighter. She whispered in Feng Yao's ear, threatening, You'd better not say anything rash. You know my current strength. Then, with tears in her eyes, she said, Sister, where have you been these past few days? We found the carriage at the bottom of the cliff, but you were nowhere to be seen. Did someone save you? This display of sisterly affection infuriated Ziyuan. If his powers weren't sealed, he would have dealt with this drama queen immediately. Such good acting. Feng Yao lowered her head, sighed, and said, I don't remember. She recalled her grandfather's instructions in the village, telling her to return to the Feng mansion immediately after resting for a few days when her body was fine. Grandfather had already calculated that her second uncle's family would surely have prepared a set of excuses. After returning, no matter what they said or how they acted, she should just go along with it. She should pretend not to remember their mistreatment of her. For now, we, an old man and a young girl, can't openly confront them. We can only inconvenience you for now. Thinking of this, she replied, I only remember having a nightmare. When I woke up, I was in a forest. My mind was confused. I just knew I walked for a long time before finally reaching home. The expressions of Feng Yuqing's family of 3 changed. How is this possible? They thought Feng Yao would reveal the truth, but instead, she helped cover for them. Ziyuan angrily said, 7 days, and you just came up with this nonsense? They were communicating mentally. Only Feng Yao could hear. Feng Yao touched her bracelet, signaling him to be quiet. You don't understand. The less said, the more confused they'll be. Let them guess. Come, let grandfather have a good look at you. Are you hurt anywhere? Feng Yao looked at her teary-eyed grandfather. I'm fine, grandfather. Everything's all right. I just missed you. At this moment, Feng Yuqing's wife stepped forward and said, It's good that you're all right. Yao Yao, don't blame your second aunt for saying this, but you insisted on going to the mountain temple, resulting in this accident. Your second uncle led the Feng and you guards to search for you everywhere, causing your grandfather to worry as well. Seeing Feng Lai's icy expression, Feng Yuqing pushed his wife aside. You should say less. At this moment, Feng Lai angrily shouted, Yuqing! Feng Yuqing was startled. Feng Lai, with his hands behind his back, exuded authority without anger. As the head of the Feng family, you failed to manage the household properly. Besides the 3,000 servants, there are 1,000 guards and palace maids at your disposal. With so many people, you couldn't find Yao Yao. I'm very disappointed. Father, it's my fault. I was negligent in management. Before he could finish, Feng Lai thundered. The Feng family's current status was half earned by your brother and sister-in-law with their lives. Yaoer is the only flesh and blood left by your elder brother. If anything happens to her, how will you face your brother and sister-in-law? Feng Yuqing, as if suddenly realizing his mistake, immediately knelt down. It's my fault, father. Feng Lai Frovnet, hand over the U-Guard command token. Feng Yuqing reluctantly took out the U-Guard command token. He respectfully presented it to Feng Lai with both hands. Beside them, Feng Qingwei was grinding her teeth in anger. Feng Lai looked at Feng Yao with gentle affection. You've been unable to cultivate since childhood and can't protect yourself in danger. From now on, you'll have a U-Guard to protect you. They'll only obey your orders. Grandfather can rest easy now. Looking at the token in her hand, Feng Yao felt its immense weight. It contained her grandfather's love for her. She was secretly delighted that she would now be the master of the U-Guard. Feng Yuqing returned to his room with a gloomy face. Feng Qingwei followed, fuming. She said, What's going on? Feng Yao had lost too much blood and was barely alive. She was even thrown into the Black Dragon Pool. It's impossible for these injuries to heal in just 7 days. At this moment, Feng Yuqing looked at Feng Qingwei. She must have had help from a powerful person. I've already sent people to investigate. Feng Qingwei gritted her teeth in anger. That brat didn't die and even got the U-Guard token. She complained, Father, why didn't you resist? Although grandfather was once a great general on the battlefield, he's old now. With my current strength, I can easily deal with him. Shut up. Feng Yuqing suddenly became angry. Do you want me to be labeled as unfilial? This family was built by your grandfather and your uncle and aunt. The old man doesn't interfere with family matters. Who knows if he still has any trump cards after all these years? No need to rush. The old man doesn't have many years left. When he passes away, taking back the Jade Seal will be as easy as turning over your hand. The urgent matter now is to find out how Feng Yao survived such a calamity. Feng Qingwei was frustrated. Did Feng Yao lose her memory? Otherwise, why didn't she reveal the truth on the spot? At this time, Feng Yao was muttering to herself in her room. She must grow up quickly, not to worry her grandfather. She also needed to take revenge on those who wanted her dead. Her brows furrowed instantly, but she was born without a dantian. How could she grow quickly? What? The dragon was shocked and swam from Feng Yao's arm to her back. You were born without a dantian? Startled, Feng Yao quickly stood up. What are you doing? How did you move from the bracelet to my back? Just checking if you really don't have a dantian. Don't you like me on your back? The dragon said while swimming. Can't help it. We've signed a contract after all. It's fine. I'm a dragon and you're human. I'm not interested in your body. Hurry and change your clothes. We need to find herbs to forge your dantian. Feng Yao looked at the dragon with disgust. I can't get married now, you perverted dragon. Once out of the Feng mansion, the bustling street market was crowded. Feng Yao searched for the largest pharmacy in the city. Feng Yao wore a fire-red long dress that perfectly outlined her figure. Ziyuan said, Everyone on the street seems to be staring at you. Of course, I'm naturally beautiful. Let them look, Feng Yao replied. Ziyuan was surprised. Then why did you react so strongly when I looked at you earlier? Feng Yao became emotional and fiercely said, That's different. She angrily strode forward. Hey, don't you have a guard token? Why didn't you bring some guards? Feng Yao calmly said in a low voice, The fewer people who know about buying medicine, the better. We're not sure if they're loyal to me yet. Suddenly, a black shadow crashed down from above. Feng Yao quickly dodged. With a crisp sound, a teapot shattered into pieces in front of her. Feng Yao's face darkened. She looked up and heard a mocking voice from the elegant pavilion by the window. The voice calling ninth uncle had no respect at all. Drinking tea alone is so lonely. Why don't I, your nephew, keep you company? How could that pot of Longjing tea suit your taste? That's what common people drink, bitter and astringent. You should drink freshly drawn well water instead. Please enjoy. Ji Zian picked up the cup and continued to tease. Ninth uncle, please drink your water. At this moment, Feng Yao, fuming with anger, rushed to the second floor looking for revenge. Feng Yang stepped forward with a cold smile. Who's this? Bullying a blind person in broad daylight in a tea house. And it's even his own uncle. The fifth prince is truly scum. Just now, as I was passing by downstairs, the fifth prince nearly killed me by throwing a teapot for no reason. I'm here to seek an explanation from the fifth prince. Zian's face darkened with anger. You're nothing but a lowly commoner. How dare you demand an explanation from this prince? Get lost. Ziyuan angrily said, Why don't I teach this brat a lesson? Feng Yao wasn't upset and replied, No need. I have my own way of dealing with him. Instead, a smile slowly spread across Feng Yao's lips. The fifth prince is right. I'm just a lowly commoner. How dare I ask for an explanation from you? I'll pour you tea and apologize right away. Ji Zian arrogantly said, Just pouring tea isn't enough. You must kneel before me. Before he could finish speaking, Feng Yao picked up the teacup and walked straight up to him, pouring it directly over his head. Feng Yao exclaimed, Oh my, I lost my grip for a moment. Please forgive me, fifth prince. Ji Zian angrily shouted, You audacious commoner. He swung his fist towards Feng Yao. At this moment, Ziyuan stuck out her foot. With a thud, Ji Zian fell heavily in front of Feng Yao. Feng Yao said domineeringly, So in the fifth prince's eyes, my Feng family's loyal service and numerous military achievements, my parents' deaths on the battlefield, are all just the actions of lowly commoners. It seems the fifth prince doesn't care about anyone who protects North Yin country. Ji Zian's heart skipped a beat, startled. It's someone from the Feng family. Could this stunningly beautiful girl be that useless Feng Yao? At this time, discussions broke out in the tea house. They're the fifth prince and the Feng family's daughter. Even the current emperor respects the Feng family. Who would have thought the fifth prince would dare to bully someone from the Feng family? Ji Zian realized that although Feng Yao was useless, the Feng family behind her couldn't be offended. So it's the third miss of the Feng family. My apologies. I misspoke earlier and the teapot slipped from my hand. I hope the third miss won't take offense. Feng Yao coldly snorted. So a slip of the tongue allows you to insult my Feng family at will? She then walked to the window. And your slip of the hand could have taken my life. It seems the fifth prince has no intention of admitting his mistake. She directly threatened with a salute. Then I'll have to seek justice from his majesty today. Hearing this, Ji Zian hurriedly stepped forward. Third miss, this prince sincerely wants to apologize. How about I have someone send you a compensation gift later? What do you think? Feng Yao smiled faintly and held up one finger. Good. 10,000 taels of gold. When Ji Zian heard Feng Yao's demand for 10,000 taels of gold, he couldn't help but shout, Why don't you just rob me? Feng Yao suddenly clutched her chest, looking dejected. I feel some palpitations and headache. Perhaps I was so frightened that I might need to seek comfort from His Majesty. Ji Zian gritted his teeth. I'll have someone send the compensation to third Miss Feng later. He thought, I've seen robbery before, but never such blatant robbery of a prince. Furious, he glared at Feng Yao one last time before turning and leaving. Feng Yao smiled slightly. Then I'll await the fifth prince's gift at home. Now I have money to buy medicine. The second floor private room suddenly became quiet. Feng Yao turned her gaze. Ninth prince, you don't mind if I sit down for a cup of tea, do you? She sat down, poured herself a cup of tea, and started sipping. You're already drinking. Why bother asking for my opinion? Aren't you afraid of causing trouble for yourself by having tea with a useless prince? Feng Yao looked up, staring at Ji Liyuan across from her. In my eyes, your highness is not a useless prince at all. It's said that Ji Liyuan was once the god of war of the northern country. He became famous at a young age, conquering battlefields, unstoppable, and achieving glorious military exploits. Only because of an enemy ambush 10 years ago did he become disabled. They say before his disfigurement, he was the most handsome man in Wushuang City, unmatched in all of North Yin country. Ji Liyuan sensed that the girl across from him was staring at him intently. He raised his hand to reach for the teapot on the table, but another pair of hands moved faster than his. Their hands touched for an instant, like an electric shock. Both were stunned for a moment. Feng Yao quickly poured a cup of hot tea and respectfully offered it to him with both hands. She said, Feng Yao only knows that the ninth prince, like my parents, is a hero who protects the country. Ji Liyuan was slightly surprised that Feng Yao had taken the initiative to pour tea for him. Since his defeat, those noble ladies in Wushuang City have been avoiding him as much as possible. Ji Liyuan was only stunned for a moment before reaching out to take the hot water offered by the Phoenix Demon. The eunuch said, Third Miss Feng doesn't go out shopping, but stays to drink tea with me, a useless person. Aren't you afraid it will damage your reputation? The Phoenix Demon laughed softly. Everyone knows that the Feng family's third miss is a useless person who can't cultivate, who caused the death of both parents, and even brought misfortune upon herself. My eldest brother is seriously ill and can't leave, recuperating at the old mansion in Yang. Ninth Prince, do you still think I have a good reputation? You should be careful drinking tea with me. Ziyuan felt very strange at this moment. The person before him clearly had impaired vision, yet gave him a sense of great strength. He then joked, Since you two are both so miserable, why don't you just live together? The Phoenix Demon thought to himself, What nonsense are you talking about? Without waiting for Ji Liyue to answer, the Phoenix Demon stood up gracefully. Ninth Prince, I have some business at the market, so I'll take my leave now. Through the white cloth, Ji Liyue watched the slender, thin figure of the young girl slowly disappear down the stairs. The corners of her lips couldn't help but curl up. Who says the Feng family's third miss is illiterate and useless? Looking at her wit and eloquence, she's not weak at all. Could the Phoenix Demon be the Crown Prince's fiancé? After leaving the tea house, the Phoenix Demon went to the largest pharmacy in the city. Entering the pharmacy, the Phoenix Demon immediately handed over a list of medicinal ingredients. The shop assistant took a look and saw they were all top-grade, rare medicinal herbs. Miss, please wait a moment while I prepare these herbs for you. Suddenly, the Phoenix Demon was attracted by a pot of purple flowers. The owner said, Miss, this flower has no name. Half of it has already withered. If you like it, I'll give it to you. The Phoenix Demon said happily, Thank you, sir. After leaving the pharmacy, Ziyuan asked, Even the pharmacy owner doesn't know this flower. How do you know about it? The Phoenix Demon lowered his head and said, I once saw the purple immortal grass in a medical book I was able to keep. It's an excellent ingredient for refining beauty pills, rare in the world. It's a pity it's almost dead. My parents left me quite a few handwritten medical books, which contain knowledge about medical techniques, pill refining, poison making, and more. Whenever I missed them, I read the books. Now I know them by heart. Ziyuan said sympathetically, Poor child. From now on, I'll protect you and make sure you become famous throughout the world. The Phoenix Demon looked disgusted. You're too close. I'm not a child anymore, Ziyuan mocked. Your combat power is almost zero, not much different from a child. Come with me to rebuild your Dantian and become stronger. Let's see if you'll still laugh at me then. The Phoenix Demon decided to go to the black market after dark to see if he could buy some live fire. The black market was crowded with people coming and going, a mix of all sorts, filled with various strange smells. This was the Phoenix Demon's first time at the black market. He had specially changed into men's clothing, feeling a bit nervous, but also curious. After walking for a while, the Phoenix Demon found an old man with his eyes tightly closed. On the stall in front of him was only a specially made glass bottle containing a purple flame. Under the purple flame, the bottle flickered. The Phoenix Demon heard Xian's voice in his mind. It's the beast fire of a ninth-grade purple golden fox. Using it to create a dantian would make you tens of times stronger than ordinary people. The Phoenix Demon approached and asked the old man, "How much for this purple golden spirit fox's beast fire?" "Not for sale." The old man opened his eyes upon hearing this, glancing indifferently at the Phoenix Demon. "If you want it, trade it for a heart-protecting pill." The Phoenix Demon was stunned. The heart-protecting pill was extremely rare even in Wushuang City. Only the Imperial Palace and the Medicine Pavilion had a first-grade pill master who could refine this pill. The Phoenix Demon was thinking about whether he could persuade him to trade for other valuable pills. Just then, a clear female voice rang out, carrying a hint of arrogance. "I'll take this fire." The Phoenix Demon looked up, his eyebrows slightly furrowing under his mask. It was actually Feng Qingwei. Even His Highness the Crown Prince, Ji Zijuan, was there. "Crown Prince brother, what are you looking at?" The Crown Prince said puzzledly. "That person's eyes look a bit like Feng Yao's. I haven't gone to see her since her accident." At this moment, Feng Qingwei began to act coquettishly. "Sister's body hasn't fully recovered yet, so it's not convenient for you to visit. Wait until she's ready to receive guests. Then you can go see her. Sister will understand." Looking at Feng Qingwei's coquettish and affected manner, Feng Yao felt very contemptuous. At this moment, Ziyuan said, "Don't you have an engagement with the Crown Prince? It was just a joke. After I encountered danger, he never cared about me." It turns out he was busy dating Feng Qingwei. "That's fine. I don't like him anyway." Ziyuan thought Feng Yao was feeling sad and comforted him. "Girl, cry if you want to." The not at all sad Feng Yao gritted his teeth, wishing he could beat him to death. At this time, Feng Qingwei walked to the stall and took out a small porcelain bottle from her bosom. "This is a second-grade pill, one grade higher than the heart-protecting pill. But this uncle still won't trade." Feng Yao was puzzled on the side. A second-grade pill can consolidate the soul. For any martial artist, the attraction is enormous. Yet he wouldn't trade. Feng Qingwei suddenly shouted, "Are you sick? You won't trade, even for such a high-grade pill." The uncle frowned, but didn't get angry. Instead, he looked at Feng Qingwei indifferently and said, "Only want heart-protecting pills, not nurturing pills." Feng Qingwei immediately slammed the table and yelled, "Don't be ungrateful. You'll trade this longevity fire today, whether you want to or not." At this moment, Ziyuan sensed that Feng Yao had a solution and praised himself for choosing the right master. Feng Yao couldn't stand it and stepped forward, saying, "There are rules for black market transactions. If you don't meet the stall owner's conditions, you can't trade." Does this young lady want to break the rules and force a trade in front of everyone? The onlookers discussed among themselves. Feng Qingwei immediately jumped up. "You little brat, do you know who I am?" At this moment, the Crown Prince frowned and turned to leave. Feng Yao laughed. "Your brother feels embarrassed," and left. "Hurry up and comfort him." Feng Qingwei looked and turned to chase after him. "Crown Prince brother, wait. You was a bit hasty just now, but I really need this longevity fire urgently." At this time, people dispersed. Feng Yao walked to the front of the stall and asked, "You refuse this valuable pill and only want the heart-protecting pill. I suppose it's to save someone, right?" Feng Yao said, "That patient's condition must be very critical. Even doctors can't save them. But you don't know, even with the heart-protecting pill, it will only prolong life for 3 months at most. Uncle, rather than using the heart-protecting pill, why don't you let me try? Perhaps I can cure the patient." The man had a good impression of Feng Yao, feeling that this young brother was gentle and humble in character. He then took Feng Yao to his mother's residence. On the bed lay a woman, about 50 years old. Her temples were graying, her face was sallow, and wrinkles filled her forehead and corners of her eyes. Her eyes were tightly closed, and her breath was extremely weak. If not looked at closely, one might think she had already passed away. Feng Yao stepped forward, took the woman's hand, and checked her pulse. "Your mother's body has been damaged due to years of hard work, coupled with a serious illness. Additionally, a severe illness." As he spoke, he took out the medical notes he could leave for him and prepared to apply acupuncture. "Your mother's internal organs have failed. If not treated, I'm afraid she won't live past." He began to apply acupuncture to the woman, inserting silver needles into 8 major acupoints of the 8 meridians. The man watched Feng Yao's technique and became increasingly shocked. This seemed to be the lost Qinkuan Bagua needle technique, a needle method passed down from Manhwa Valley. Could he be a descendant of Xingyi Valley? Weren't they said to have been wiped out? At this moment, the woman slowly opened her eyes. Feng Yao secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The woman's face was no longer shrouded in the aura of death, and her breathing had gradually stabilized. He then stood up, looking exhausted. The man grabbed his mother's hand and knelt before her, crying emotionally. "Mother, you've finally woken up. I was so worried about you," Ziyuan said. "You actually helped her channel the spiritual energy of heaven and earth." Feng Yao calmly said, "People live with yang energy and die without it. I just helped her channel a bit." Impressive, right? The man slowly helped the woman sit up. The woman looked at her tearful son and said lovingly, "It's all right, it's all right. Mother is awake now, isn't she?" Seeing that the woman was out of danger, Feng Yao took the longevity fire and walked to the door, saying, "Let your mother rest well. Remember not to let her overwork herself." The imperial palace was decorated in a truly splendid manner. If it weren't for the invitation stating that all female relatives must attend, I really wouldn't want to attend Zijuan's birthday banquet. Feng Yao took advantage of the palace banquet, not yet fully starting to take a walk in the nearby imperial garden. Ziyuan complained, "This crown prince's birthday feast doesn't have anything to my taste." Feng Yao said softly, "Are you a dragon? You won't have an appetite for these things." Suddenly, a gentle and clear male voice sounded behind Yao Yao, extremely distinct in the quiet night. It was Zijuan's voice. "Oh, speak of the devil." Feng Yao turned around and saw Zijuan in exquisite robes behind her, truly exuding nobility. Feng Yao first steadied herself, then asked, "May I know what the crown prince needs from me?" Zijuan stepped forward, his brows full of tenderness, and said, "Yao Yao, what have you been doing lately? Why haven't I seen you for so long? Are you still angry with me?" Feng Yao calmly replied, "I was recuperating at home. If your highness has no other business, I'll take my leave." As Feng Yao turned to leave, Zijuan instantly grabbed her wrist. "Yao Yao, what have I done wrong? Why do you dislike me so much and distance yourself from me?" Feng Yao laughed heartily. "Your highness has done nothing wrong. It's just that Feng Yao has realized the gap between us. That's all." Zijuan looked at her with sorrowful eyes. "Do you have to be like this? Rest assured, although I can't make you the crown princess, I will take you as a side consort. I'll give you the same etiquette as the crown princess and love you as before. But I absolutely won't break off our engagement." Feng Yao yanked her hand away from Zijuan, smirking, "Your highness need not trouble yourself so." She then untied the jade pendant from her waist and stuffed it into his hand. "This doesn't belong to me. It's time I returned it to you." Ignoring Zijuan's expression, she turned and left. Watching Feng Yao's figure leave without hesitation, Zijuan's brows furrowed deeper. He had promised her the highest honor. Why was she still unsatisfied? Feng Qinghue had come looking for Zijuan, but unexpectedly overheard their conversation, her eyes full of hatred. "You're just a useless person. Why does the crown prince only have you in his heart?" At this moment, Jiliuan also happened to pass by, sitting quietly in his wheelchair, as if detached from the worldly clamor. Lu Changjun looked at Jiliuan. This Feng family's third Miss sure has a temper. Born without a dantian, yet wants to be the crown princess and have Zijuan's sole favor. The banquet was about to begin. Just when Lu Qingjun thought his master wouldn't speak, Jiliuan's voice softly sounded. If she truly wanted sole favor, power, and status, she would have agreed just now. "Let's go." Not long after Feng Yao returned to her seat, the crown prince's birthday banquet began. Emperor Dinrui sat down on the throne above. Empress Jiang took her seat on the phoenix chair. The palace banquet naturally included song and dance entertainment. The civil and military officials also knew that today was the day for the crown prince to choose his consort, and also the day to break off the engagement with Feng Yao. So those unmarried young ladies were putting in their utmost effort in their performances, hoping to gain the favor of the emperor and empress. After all the noble ladies had performed, Empress Jiang smiled approvingly and said, "They are all gentle, lovely, intelligent, and graceful children. What do you think, Your Majesty?" Emperor Ji Yunrei nodded with a smile. "The Empress speaks truly. It's evident that our officials have taught their children extremely well. However, I think the most outstanding is still the Feng family's second daughter. I hear she has already reached the level of a one-star martial master, and a few days ago, she awakened her celestial bone. Such talent is truly rare in 100 years. Feng Qinghue stood up from her seat with a graceful and gentle manner, curtsied, and replied with a smile, "Your Majesty, this subject was just lucky. I only broke through a few days ago." Empress Jiang eagerly said, "Your Majesty, the Feng family's second daughter is exceptionally good. Now that she has awakened a rare celestial bone seen only once in 1,000 years, she is so outstanding. I think she is the best candidate for the crown princess." Beside her, noble consort smiled and said, "Sister, how come I heard that the crown prince and the Feng family's third daughter, Feng Yao, have been engaged since childhood? My memory is poor. I wonder if I remembered incorrectly." Empress Zhang's expression darkened slightly. At this moment, Ji Yunrui frowned, his eyes carrying a hint of warning as he looked at noble consort Da. Noble consort Da showed no fear. Tugging at Ji Yunrui's sleeve, she coquettishly said, "Your Majesty, I was just asking casually. I'm also thinking about the reputation of the Northern Yin country." Ji Yunrui also considered that his parents died on the battlefield. If they broke off the engagement like this, it would dishearten the common people. So Ji Yunrui called out, "Feng family, where's Feng Yao?" Feng Yao ignored the various expressions of those around her. She walked forward with a calm face, performed an extremely graceful curtsy, and said, "Your Majesty, I am Feng Yao." People looked at Feng Yao with some sympathy. With such good looks, no wonder the crown prince couldn't forget her. It's a pity she's a useless person who can't cultivate. Ji Yunrui said, "Feng Yao, years ago, the empress jokingly arranged your engagement with Juner. But now you can't cultivate, and the crown princess, as the future mother of the country, needs to cultivate with Juner and fight on the battlefield together. So I plan to make your sister Feng Qinghua the crown princess, and you the crown prince's side consort. What do you think?" Unexpectedly, Feng Yao immediately refused. "Thank you for your kindness, Your Majesty. Feng Yao does not wish to enter the crown prince's residence." Feng Yao knew she was born without a dantian and couldn't cultivate. She couldn't assist the crown prince and wasn't worthy of him, so she had already returned the token to the crown prince. Seeing Feng Yao being so cooperative, Empress Jiang felt that the Feng family's third daughter was a person who understood the bigger picture. She pleaded with the emperor to find another good husband for her. Wouldn't that be the best of both worlds? Ji Yunui's gaze swept around the surroundings, looking at those unmarried young men from royal and noble families. He saw them lowering their heads and averting their eyes, all acting like quails. People whispered that although Feng Yao was beautiful, she was ultimately just a useless person who couldn't cultivate. She had been engaged to the crown prince, and the way the crown prince looked at her seemed to suggest lingering feelings. Who would dare to compete with the crown prince for a woman? They might die without even knowing how they died. Feng Qinghua, seeing that no one dared to marry her, felt very displeased. Suddenly, her gaze shifted and fell on Ji Liyuan, who was sitting in a wheelchair to the side. She immediately knelt down in front of the throne. With a graceful bow, she said, "Your Majesty, I have a suggestion. The ninth prince once fought on the battlefield for the Northern Yin country, risking his life. Now he remains unmarried, past the suitable age for marriage. Why don't your Majesty arrange for my sister to marry the ninth prince? It would make for a beautiful story." Ji Yunrui narrowed his eyes, looking at Ji Liyuan in the wheelchair, his eyes showing a thoughtful expression. Ji Liyuan calmly replied, "This brother is a useless person. What qualifications do I have to take a wife and have children?" Feng Yao, seeing the situation, smoothly responded without being asked for her opinion. This marriage couldn't be avoided now. Feng Yao simply said, "The ninth prince was injured for the people of Northern Yin. Why wouldn't he be qualified? It would be my fortune to marry the ninth prince." This worried Ziyuan greatly. "Are you serious?" Empress Jiang said, "Your Majesty, it seems our Northern Yin country is about to have double happiness." Seeing that both Ji Liyuan and Feng Yao had agreed, Ji Yunrui smiled and said, "In that case, let's arrange the wedding banquet for ninth brother and Juner on the same day." Ji Liyuan's expression remained calm as he turned his head towards Feng Yao's direction. A trace of surprise flashed through his mind. Feng Yao's quick agreement was somewhat unexpected to him. Back in Chaofeng Pavilion, Feng Yao had the guard Su Zhi keep watch in the courtyard, not allowing anyone to enter. Feng Yao absorbed the beast fire into her body, storing it in her dantian, soaking in a medicinal bath, all to better suppress this sacred fire. Ziyuan, seeing Feng Yao's pained expression, felt heartbroken. "The flames have entered your body. It will feel like you're being torn in half." You must endure this pain, otherwise you'll be burned to ashes by the flame's backlash. Feng Yao clenched her teeth tightly, but she couldn't help shaking from the pain. Seeing Feng Yao's body temperature rise again, the water in the bathtub had already started to boil. It seemed the only option was to transfer Star's soul power to her. This made Ziyuan conflicted. Transferring Star's soul power required palm-to-palm contact and being in the same bathtub. Watching her endure such intense torture, which was like hell's torment, he couldn't help but feel sorry for his master. Fine. Although I'm a well-behaved, good dragon who never misbehaves, I'll let you take advantage this time. Ziyuan was about to enter the bathtub. Suddenly, voices and the sound of a door being broken down came from outside. Ziyuan was startled and immediately transformed into a miniature snake, lying motionless in the corner. What? The Phoenix demon swallowed beast fire and locked herself in the room for 7 days? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Feng Lai looked at Su Zhe with shock and anger. Su Zhe's cold face showed concern. Master ordered not to let anyone disturb her. Feng Lai pushed open the door. Immediately, a scorching heat hit his face, and he realized the problem. But at this moment, where could he find someone with deep strength who could enter Yao Yao's room? Just as Feng Lai was at his wit's end, Ji Liyuan's voice sounded from behind. Old Master Feng, if you trust this prince, why not let me try? Feng Lai was stunned upon hearing this. He turned to look at Ji Liyuan, pondered for a moment, then nodded in agreement. Then I'll entrust Yao Yao to the 9th prince. The 9th prince is Yao Yao's fiancé. Indeed, the most suitable person now is only the 9th prince. Saying this, he pushed Lu Chengjun forward. After pushing the 9th prince into the room, he immediately turned and left, closing the door. Ji Liyuan glanced at Ziyuan, who was pretending to be dead in the corner. With a wave of his hand, Zin instantly turned into a black shadow and was thrown out of the window. Isn't this guy blind? Before Ziyuan could react, he heard a bang as the window was closed. Ziyuan was thrown into a daze and could only curse inwardly. Ji Liyuan looked at the girl in the bathtub. The steam in the room made everything seem dreamy and hazy. Ji Liyuan moved swiftly into the bathtub. Star's soul power surged in his hands as he placed them on Feng Yao's palms. Instantly, streams of pure star soul power flowed into Feng Yao's body. Meng Yao felt a vast and powerful force entering her body. It helped her suppress the beast fire of the purple gold spirit fox together. After an unknown amount of time, Ji Liyuan clearly felt that the temperature of Feng Yao's body was visibly decreasing. Feng Yao was puzzled in her heart. Before she could sense it carefully, she tilted her head and fainted directly in Ji Liyuan's arms. At this moment, Ji Liyuan picked up Feng Yao and walked out of the bathtub. She immediately fell into Ji Liyuan's arms. Ji Liyuan looked down at Feng Yao, his heart stirring with waves of shock. She was actually risking her life to swallow the beast fire. Could it be for cultivation? The situation just now seemed extremely dangerous, but after he intervened, he discovered that she had already suppressed the beast fire. If he hadn't interfered, she could have turned the danger into safety. When Feng Yao woke up, it was already 2 days later. Feng Yao found herself lying in bed, her clothes clean and tidy, but she couldn't remember anything. She sat up and looked at Ziyuan, curled up on her wrist like a black jade bracelet. She asked puzzledly, "Did you help me change clothes?" After a while, a voice in the air replied weakly, "It wasn't me. It was that blind guy." Feng Yao frowned slightly, surprised. How could it be him? She couldn't help but hug herself protectively, her phoenix eyes wide open. "Then didn't I get exposed?" Ziyuan angrily said. "No, that guy just took advantage of you. He even dared to throw me, a 1,000-year-old dragon, out of the window." Feng Yao's face darkened. After a moment of silence, she slowly said, "It's okay. He's blind and can't see anything." Feng Yao no longer dwelled on this matter, but asked excitedly, "Does this mean I can start cultivating today?" Ziyuan quickly replied, "Yes. Try running the cultivation technique now." As soon as the words fell, she sat cross-legged and closed her eyes. As long as she ran the cultivation technique to absorb the star soul power from heaven and earth into her body, a purple gold flame would immediately burst out from her dantian. This scene astonished Ziyuan. Shocked to see a phoenix reborn, bones reconstructed. You possess the phoenix celestial bone, while Feng Qingwei only has an ordinary celestial bone. Legend says phoenixes can be reborn from ashes. Who would have thought the phoenix celestial bone could also be reborn. All the purple gold light in the room disappeared, completely absorbed back into Feng Yao's body. Only then did Feng Yao open her eyes. Feng Yao excitedly said, "With the phoenix celestial bone, my power will progress faster. I'm no longer a useless person without a dantian. It won't be long before I can take revenge." Ziyuan looked at Feng Yao with determination in her eyes. "Hurry and awaken your star soul." Feng Yao nodded quickly, following Ziyuan's words obediently. Although Ziyuan was a flood dragon, she had lived for 1,000 years and naturally knew more than Feng Yao. Suppressing the excitement in her heart, Feng Yao closed her eyes again. Following Ziyuan's instructions, she slowly extended her divine sense outside her body, trying to sense the starry sky. Choose the one with the highest compatibility with you. That will be the most suitable star soul for you. Feng Yao's divine sense roamed among the stars, discovering a star with the highest compatibility with herself. That star turned out to be the Phoenix Star Soul, specifically the Fire Phoenix Star Soul. Feng Yao released all of her divine sense, slowly enveloping and surrounding that star, and then completely devouring it. Feng Yao tried hard, attempting dozens of times, failing repeatedly, and continuing again and again. In the deep, boundless starry sky, countless lights surged. That star transformed into the shadow of a fire phoenix, descending from the 9 heavens and flying into Feng Yao's body. Ziyuan excitedly shouted, "Great! Your first awakened star soul is the fire phoenix. Combined with your phoenix celestial bone, you will surely become a martial god that everyone admires and respects in the future." It was the first time Feng Yao had seen Ziyuan so excited. Ziyuan's words touched her deeply. After the excitement subsided, Feng Yao gradually calmed down. She looked at Ziyuan and asked, "Ziyuan, what's your star soul?" Ziyuan said, "We spirit beasts don't have star souls, because we are already in the form of spirit beasts." Feng Yao asked in surprise, "If you've never awakened a star soul, how do you know so much about them?" "Because of my former master." Ziyuan lowered her gaze, her eyelashes hiding a tear in her eyes. Feng Yao reached out and patted Ziyuan's shoulder, comforting her. "From now on, you have me. I will work hard to cultivate and protect you well." Saying this, she hugged Ziyuan tightly. "When I become a martial god, I'll accompany you to find those old fellows who sealed you and help you get revenge." Ziyuan looked up at Feng Yao. The hurt in her eyes instantly disappeared. "It's a promise then." Feng Lai stayed in the library for 2 days. He flipped through many books, all for the sake of Yao Yao, who had no dantian, looking for ways to help her cultivate a dantian. At this moment, he heard "Grandfather." Feng Lai immediately turned around. Seeing Feng Yao unharmed, the tense expression on his face relaxed a bit, but he still looked very stern. Feng Yao walked up with a smile, hugging Feng Lai's arm and acting coquettishly. "Grandfather, I'm sorry for worrying you these past few days. It's Yao Yao's fault." Feng Lai said seriously, "Yao Yao, tell Grandfather honestly what happened that day. Do you know how dangerous it was?" Looking at the elderly man who cared for her, Feng Yao said, "Grandfather, have you heard that those born without a dantian can create one?" Hearing this, Feng Lai's face showed shock. "Create a dantian? I once heard your mother mention this. It was too incredible with no known method, so I didn't know if it was true." Feng Yao smiled and said, "Grandfather, during those days I was in seclusion. I was creating a dantian, and I succeeded." Feng Lai exclaimed in surprise. "You created a dantian?" Feng Lai knew that creating a dantian was extremely dangerous. The temperature was terrifyingly high, like entering a furnace. Feng Lai didn't ask Feng Yao how she created the dantian, but instead sat down beside her. He earnestly advised, "You can cultivate for a lifetime. There's no need to announce it yet. After all, the ritual of creating a dantian is too shocking. If this matter gets out, it will surely bring you unnecessary trouble." Feng Yao smiled gently and said, "Grandfather is my closest person. That's why I told you. One is a subordinate my father carefully nurtured. You are the people I trust the most. Besides you, I won't tell anyone else. Grandfather, please don't worry." Fortunately, the 9th prince came to the rescue that day. Otherwise, Grandfather can't even imagine the consequences. Find some free time to go to the 9th prince's mansion to thank him. The Phoenix demon nodded obediently. "I understand, Grandfather. The Phoenix Demon went directly to the ninth prince's mansion. There were only 2 guards at the gate. Passers-by on the street, upon seeing the ninth prince's mansion, avoided it like a fierce beast, staying far away. The Phoenix Demon announced herself at the gate. An old steward with kind eyes appeared, saying, "Oh, it's the 3rd Miss Fong. Please come in. The prince is resting in the courtyard. I'll lead you there." The old steward's enthusiasm surprised the Phoenix Demon. Wasn't the ninth prince's mansion said to be cold and heartless? The vast mansion had no maids, only male servants, and not many at that. The Phoenix Demon followed the old steward into the main courtyard. From afar, she saw a tree in the courtyard. The blooming peach tree was lush and beautiful. The courtyard was bathed in sunlight, with pink petals scattered beneath the tree. A tall, solitary figure sat in a wheelchair, seemingly staring at the peach blossoms in a daze. He couldn't see anything, yet it seemed as if he could see everything. The old steward went forward and softly reported, "Your Highness, the 3rd Miss Fong is here." Ji Liyuan's face showed no extra expression. He just nodded slightly with a calm demeanor. The Phoenix Demon stepped forward. "Thank you for saving me that day." Looking at the ninth prince in the wheelchair, she was very puzzled. Is he lame and blind? How did he manage to rescue her? She only heard, "That day, I happened to pass by the Fong mansion. I thought about visiting you. Unexpectedly, I encountered you." Before Ji Liyuan could finish speaking, the Phoenix Demon seemed to think of something, and her face suddenly turned slightly red. She quickly said, "You don't need to apologize. You saved my life. I'm here today to repay the favor. However, I don't know how to thank you. How about I take your pulse and check your condition?" Ji Liyuan smiled slightly. "I didn't expect Miss Fong to be a physician, but my legs and eyes can't be cured. They've been damaged for 10 years. After a pause, Ji Liyuan still extended his hand. "Then I'll trouble Miss Fong." The Phoenix Demon sat down and took Ji Liyuan's pulse. After a long while, she released his hand and said, "Can I remove the cloth covering your eyes?" Ji Liyuan didn't answer whether he agreed, but only said, "I want to ask Miss Fong a question." The Phoenix Demon smiled and said, "You want to ask why I agreed to His Majesty's arranged marriage? If I refuse, it would be defying the imperial order. His Majesty would arrange another marriage for me anyway." Ji Liyuan lowered his head. "But I am lame and blind, a useless waste." The Phoenix Demon smiled brightly. "So what? I'm also useless, born without a dantian, unable to cultivate for life. It's perfect. Neither of us can look down on the other." The Phoenix Demon's words made Ji Liyuan's lips curl slightly. She raised her hand to remove the white cloth covering his eyes. Instantly, a pair of narrow, clear eyes appeared before the Phoenix Demon. They were a pair of beautiful phoenix eyes. The pupils were clear and crystalline, like mountain streams, without a trace of impurity. However, these phoenix eyes had no focus. The Phoenix Demon carefully examined Ji Liyuan's eyes. The steward beside them asked with mixed joy and worry, "3rd Miss Fong, can my prince's eyes and legs still be treated?" The prince's eyes were affected by poison in the past. The blindness is due to incomplete removal of the toxins. If they can be completely cleared, he might regain his sight. The Phoenix Demon's words made the old steward's face light up with joy. He excitedly asked, "What about the prince's legs?" The Phoenix Demon pondered for a moment, then said, "The prince's legs are much more serious. The meridians in both of the prince's legs have died. It would be very difficult for him to stand up again." Ji Liu smiled and said, "It's all right. If the eyes can be cured, that would be great." Feng Yao quickly wrote down a list of prescriptions and handed it to the butler. "After you find all the herbs, I'll come back to treat the ninth prince." The next morning, Feng Yao received a message from the ninth prince's mansion. In just one night, the herbs had been collected. The ninth prince's mansion moved really fast. Feng Yao arrived at the ninth prince's mansion as promised. Ji Liyuan was already waiting under the tree. Feng Yao smiled and walked up to Ji Liyuan. "Ninth prince, I'll pour wine for you first today." Ji Liyuan nodded slightly to show he understood. Feng Yao took out silver needles. First, he inserted them into Ji Liyuan's Bai Hui acupoint, then the Jingming acupoint, followed by the Tianchong and Fengqi acupoints. "Do you feel anything?" The girl's crisp voice sounded in his ear. Ji Liyuan nodded, "Yes." Feng Yao was delighted and quickly leaned forward to ask, "What do you feel?" Ji Liyuan was slightly stunned, a faint blush appearing on his face. He turned his head away inconspicuously. "It seems like a warm current is flowing from my dantian to my brain and then to the area around my eyes." Feng Yao didn't notice Ji Liyuan's unusual behavior. His eyes lit up with joy. It seems this acupuncture method is working. I'll perform acupuncture for you every day from now on and prepare an herbal ointment for your eyes. We'll check the results after a month. His clear voice carried an unprecedented determination. You saved me, so I will find a way to cure your eyes. Ji Liyuan's voice was no longer as cold as usual, seeming to carry a hint of warmth. If it can't be cured, Miss Feng need not worry about it. Feng Yao wrapped the prepared herbal ointment in a cloth strip and gently applied it to Ji Liyuan's eyes. He instructed the butler on some precautions. Only then did he leave the ninth prince's mansion and return to the Feng residence. As soon as he stepped through the main gate of the Feng residence, he saw the courtyard filled with open boxes of high-quality silk, jewels, and boxes containing precious herbs. The three members of Feng Qingyue's family stood in the courtyard, their faces full of joy, especially Feng Qingyue. He ran his hand over the exquisite silk and jewels, finally resting on the precious herbs. His eyes were full of delight and pride. He glanced at Feng Yao, who had just entered from outside the mansion, and said haughtily, "It seems the crown prince really values our wearer." He even sent several boxes of herbs, all of the highest quality. However, Feng Yao walked past him as if he didn't see anything. Such childish tricks. It's really laughable. Stop right there. Feng Qingyue glared coldly. He blocked Feng Yao's path. Feng Yao stopped speechlessly. Ziyuan said, "Oh boy, they're deliberately picking a fight today." Feng Qingyue looked at Feng Yao arrogantly. "I know the crown prince brother abandoned you to marry me. You're resentful, but you have to accept reality." Hearing this, Feng Yao's lips curled into a mocking smile. "Feng Qingyue, when have you seen me being resentful? What you consider treasures are nothing in my eyes. How dare you?" Feng Qingyue immediately flew into a rage. He grabbed Feng Yao. "You dare to call the crown prince nothing, insulting your superiors. What are you up to?" Feng Yao shook off Feng Qingyue, smiling faintly. "I never said I was insulting or belittling the crown prince. That was you, wasn't it? Is that how you really feel?" Feng Qingyue exploded in anger. "Glib tongue. I'll teach you a lesson." He raised his hand, about to strike Feng Yao's face. But Feng Yao deflected it with his hand. Then there was a loud slap. A heavy palm landed on Feng Qingyue's face, stunning him. 5 bright red finger marks immediately appeared on Feng Qingyue's cheek. When he came to his senses, his eyes were sinister, almost manic. "Feng Yao, you bitch! How dare you hit me?" Slap! Feng Yao raised his hand and delivered another slap, fast and accurate, making Feng Qingyue's sharp face look even more hideous. Feng Yao looked at Feng Qingyue. "The one who's truly out of line is you. Is this how you speak to your imperial aunt?" Madame Lu was so angry her eyes turned red. She pointed at Feng Yao as if she wanted to eat him alive. "You've gone too far. Someone come and seize him." As soon as she spoke, 2 burly guards walked over. Looking at the 2 people approaching her, Feng Yao's face showed no fear. A cold, mischievous smile curled at the corner of her mouth. "Aunt Feng Qingyue spoke disrespectfully to me, disregarding her lower status. This is to teach you all a lesson. I'm his aunt, after all. Could it be that none of you respect the 9th prince, which is why you don't take me, the 9th prince's wife, seriously?" Feng Yuqing had remained silent throughout, observing Feng Yao with his gloomy, sharp eyes. "Feng Yao, if you want to live well, you'd better learn to behave. Otherwise, you might not be able to get married as you wish." Feng Yao coldly mocked. "Do you want to dig out my bones again?" Feng Yuqing exclaimed in surprise. "You actually remember." Lu Shiji said, "It's not as simple as digging out bones." He looked at Feng Yao with an arrogant and cold gaze. Feng Yao fearlessly met their gaze. "You should know, since I've come back alive, I won't let you manipulate me anymore." At this moment, Ziyuan's eyes were tinged with sadness. "Damn, if only I wasn't sealed, I would definitely help the little girl get revenge." Feng Yao raised her hand. Since they had already torn off their masks, with both old and new grudges present, there was no need for her to pretend anymore. The atmosphere in the snake courtyard became tense. A murderous aura filled the air. Suddenly, footsteps were heard from outside the mansion. Feng Yuqing immediately suppressed his anger and coldness. Nearly 100 soldiers wearing uniform black armor entered, carrying large boxes. The leader was tall and muscular, with a cold face. It was Lu Changjun, who usually followed Ji Liyuan. Feng Yuqing's face changed to a kind smile. "Commander Lu, why are you here?" "By order of my lord, I've come to deliver betrothal gifts for Miss Feng Yao." Ignoring the expressions of Feng Yuqing's family of three, Lu Changjun took out a list from his pocket and began to read. 100 South Sea Night Pearls, 500 pieces of celestial cloud silk. As Lu Changjun announced the string of numbers, Mrs. Lu felt a sharp pain in her chest seeing so many valuable items. Feng Qingwei was even more jealous. Damn, how can that blind man be so generous? Feng Yao also widened her eyes in disbelief, her face full of shock. Ziyuan exclaimed, "So many treasures, some I've never even seen before." As the sun was setting, Lu Changjun had been reading for a full hour, his mouth dry. The list of 360 betrothal gifts was finally finished. He handed the list to Feng Yao. "Please accept this list, Miss Feng." Feng Yao smiled and took it. "The ninth prince's mansion is really wealthy. My lord said he's willing to spend all the wealth of his mansion just to marry you, Miss Feng." Feng Yao's expression changed slightly. Rumors said Ji Liyuan was cold-hearted and loveless, and his entire mansion didn't even have maids. Yet he would say such things. Lu Qingjun looked at Feng Yao meaningfully. "I hope Miss Feng can forget the past and focus on my lord." The past he referred to was probably Ji Zijuan. Feng Yao's face showed a rare seriousness. "Don't worry, Commander Lu. Please tell the ninth prince. If he doesn't let me down, I definitely won't let him down." Lu Qingjun nodded with satisfaction. He said loudly, "Princess, if anyone dares to offend you in the future, just tell me, and I'll teach them a lesson." Feng Yao glanced at Feng Yuqing's three family members, whose faces were ashen with suppressed anger. Feeling quite pleased, she smiled and said, "Good. I didn't expect Ji Liyuan to be so generous. With so many things, I'll have Yue Wei come and move them back another day. These are all valuable items. If not stored properly, they might get stolen." Feng Qingwei was grinding her teeth in anger. Feng Yuqing had also lost his arrogant air. Yao Yao is right. These are indeed rare treasures and must be stored carefully. Feng Yao turned around smugly. "Second uncle is so understanding. I won't disturb you and your family while you count your 120 betrothal gifts." Ziyuan sneered disdainfully. "It feels so good to rely on someone powerful." Feng Yao narrowed her eyes and smiled. You're the dog." A few days after his death, Feng Yao gave acupuncture and applied medicine to Ji Liyuan every day. But his eyes still couldn't see anything except for hot flashes. Feng Yao kept searching through medical books and ancient texts. Finally, she found a pill called Yuan Xingdan. If it could be refined, it would cure his eye disease. Seeing his furrowed brow, Li Yuan's thin lips curled into a faint smile. "If it can't be cured, then so be it. I've been smiling for 10 years. I'm used to it by now." Feng Yao looked at the cloth, covering his eyes. "Ninth Prince, you are the god of war of Northern Yen. You protected the people of Northern Yen. Even if you failed 10 years ago, it wasn't just your fault. You shouldn't blame yourself anymore." At this moment, the young girl's words were like a stone thrown into a lake, creating ripples in Ji Liyuan's heart. Feng Yao looked at his cold and handsome face and said seriously, "I said I would cure you, and I definitely will." This was the first time since he became crippled and blind that someone cared about his eyes, cared about his feelings. It even moved the old butler to tears. Although the princess consort cannot cultivate, she is indeed a good person. Feng Yao suddenly turned and walked in front of Lu Changjun, asking, "Is there a spare courtyard? I want to try refining medicine." Ji Liyuan was surprised when he heard this. Try refining medicine? She was born without a dantian and couldn't cultivate. She also didn't have a fire attribute. How could she refine medicine? Lu Qingjun didn't immediately agree to Feng Yao's request. Instead, he turned and looked in Ji Liyuan's direction. Feng Yao thought to herself, if she refined medicine in the Feng mansion, it would definitely be known by Feng Yuqing's family of three, which would bring unnecessary trouble. Ji Liyuan said, "Take Miss Feng to the courtyard next door. Prepare the medicinal materials for Miss Feng to refine medicine." The old butler said happily, "The princess consort is really good to you, willing to try refining medicine for you." Feng Yao thanked the ninth prince, then dove into the neighboring courtyard and didn't come out again. Her whole heart was focused on how to refine medicine. Feng Yao wiped the sweat from her face and looked up to find that it was already dark outside. A bright moon hung high in the sky. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and golden light immediately filled the room. Feng Yao quickly opened the door. Black smoke rolled out from inside, making Feng Yao cough a few times. How did this happen? Feng Yao frowned in dissatisfaction. It took a whole day to fully master medicine refining. It's still too slow, Ziyuan hurriedly said. Medicine refining must be done step by step. Don't be too hasty, Ziyuan exclaimed. You have a great talent for medicine refining. Then he twitched his mouth. Comparisons are odious. I remember it took me 1.5 years by my master's side before I could refine medicinal liquid. At this time, there was a knock on the door outside. Feng Yao walked forward to open the door. She saw Lu Qingjun pushing Ji Liyuan over. Ji Liyuan asked with concern, Miss Feng, we just heard a noise. Did something happen? Feng Yao smiled faintly. I've embarrassed myself in front of the 9th prince. I was too eager just now and had a small accident. Ji Liyuan said, It's already the hour of Z now. The night is deep and the dew is heavy. Why doesn't Miss Feng stay in the mansion tonight? If you return to the Feng mansion in this state, it's bound to cause some gossip. Feng Yao took the food box handed over by Lu Changjun. If the 9th prince doesn't mind, could I borrow a set of robes? Ji Liyuan ordered someone to prepare hot water and robes, and Feng Yao went to bathe. After bathing, Feng Yao changed into clean and refreshing robes before walking out of the room. Feng Yao's lips curled slightly as she said, Thank you, 9th prince. Lu Chengjun saw that Feng Yao's robes were dragging on the ground. He hurriedly explained to the prince that there were no maids in the mansion, so there were no women's clothes. They had been remiss towards the 3rd Miss Feng. Feng Yao smiled and said, It's all right. I should thank the 9th prince for not minding lending me robes. As she was about to return to her room to rest, she accidentally stepped on the hem of her robe. With a yelp, Feng Yao couldn't help but stumble forward. Then she fell directly into Ji Liyuan's arms. Ji Liyuan reflexively caught Feng Yao, his hands inadvertently landing on her waist. Feng Yao's whole body trembled, her eyes widening in disbelief. It took her a moment to come to her senses, and she hurriedly stood up, flustered, her fair and beautiful face flushed with 2 rosy patches. I didn't mean to. These clothes are too big. Feng Yuan stood up flustered and said shyly, The craftsmanship of this robe is excellent. It's just a bit too big when worn. Ji Liyuan's expression remained unchanged. He waved his hand and said, It's fine. Get some rest early. With that, he had Lu Qingjun escort Miss Feng 3 to the guest room. The vast prince's mansion was so quiet one could hear their own heartbeat. At first, only a bright moon hung high in the night sky, looking particularly lonely. At this moment, Lu Qingjun turned and said, Miss Feng 3, the 9th prince heard that you were inquiring about purchasing spirit tea at the shops yesterday. As it happens, the 9th prince obtained a jar by chance years ago. He has already sent someone to deliver it to your guest room. Upon hearing this, Feng Yao smiled so widely she couldn't close her mouth. Then many thanks to the 9th prince, Ziyuan exclaimed in surprise. It seems this blind guy is quite pleased with you. The next morning, the room looked particularly radiant under the sunlight. Feng Yao was lazily getting out of bed, stretching and yawning. Suddenly, she heard someone say, Princess Consort, you're awake, startling Feng Yao into full alertness, her pupils dilating as she looked at them. Princess Consort, this servant is Chuntao, who just arrived at the prince's mansion today. Then another girl introduced herself. This servant is Chuanxing, who also just arrived at the prince's mansion today. They smiled and said, The prince instructed us to come and assist the princess consort in getting up and changing. Please come this way, Princess Consort. Feng Yao was momentarily confused and simply walked over. A flash of surprise quickly passed through Feng Yao's eyes, gradually turning into amusement. Each set of clothes was exquisite with matching accessories. Ziyuan slithered down from Feng Yao's wrist and said leisurely, Tiske, has this guy fallen for you? Feng Yao glared at Ziyuan and said lazily, I'm helping him treat his eyes. He's just repaying me a little. It's just gratitude. Don't overthink it. This young lady is going to change clothes now. You'd better disappear. With a whoosh sound, Feng Yao came out of the room after finishing breakfast. At this moment, Ji Liyuan was enjoying tea in the courtyard. Lu Changjun said, Your Highness, Miss Feng 3 is coming over wearing a white dress. Ji Liyuan smiled and asked, Did you sleep well last night? Feng Yao smiled slightly and said, I slept very well. Thank you for your hospitality, 9th prince. I should be heading back now. Ji Liyuan thought for a moment and said, "Let me escort you back." Feng Yao didn't refuse. Lu Qingjun helped Ji Liyuan into the carriage. At this time, Ji Liyuan's voice sounded from the side, with a hint of probing. There are rumors in town that the Feng family's third miss is timid by nature, cowardly and insecure, unable to cultivate. It seems these rumors are untrue. The corner of Feng Yao's lips curled up into a mischievous arc. The town also spreads rumors that the ninth prince, Ji Liyue's powers have been crippled, and he can be easily bullied. It seems I can't be trusted either. About the time it takes to drink a cup of tea later, the carriage stopped in front of the Feng mansion. As soon as Feng Yao climbed out of the carriage, she saw two familiar figures standing at the entrance of the Feng mansion. It was Feng Qinghue and Ji Zijuan. The two walked side by side, smiling between their brows. From afar, their gestures and words seemed very intimate. And those two also happened to hear the sound at this moment and stopped, looking towards Feng Yao. When Ji Zijuan saw Feng Yao, his eyes narrowed slightly. He wanted to come forward, but ultimately restrained himself and stood still. Feng Qinghue caught Ji Zijuan's movement in her eyes, and a look of satisfaction appeared on her face. She strode towards Feng Yao and asked with a concerned expression, Yao, where did you go last night? Why didn't you come back all night?" Feng Qinghue asked this question very loudly. Her face was full of concern and worry. The passers-by in front of the Feng mansion, as well as the guards, Ji Zijuan, and others, all changed their expressions upon hearing this. They all looked at Feng Yao with shock and surprise, discussing among themselves. A woman not returning home at night, staying out overnight. This woman is so shameless. Not yet married and already gallivanting about. Feng Qinghue looked at the carriage behind Feng Yao, her brows slightly furrowed. Yao, whose carriage is this? You're now engaged to the ninth prince. You can't act recklessly. The fact that you didn't return all night yesterday. Don't let the ninth prince know about it. Otherwise, if the wine prince misunderstands, he might think you're unfaithful. As he said this, he suddenly covered his mouth with a terrified expression, looking around fearfully at the growing crowd of onlookers. Feng Yao sneered. Feng Qinghue, your acting skills are getting better and better. Aren't these people gathered here because of your exaggerated reactions? Li Zijuan couldn't stand it anymore. He walked up, glanced at Feng Yao, then turned to look at Feng Qinghue with a warning in his eyes. You shouldn't speak carelessly. Yao is your sister. Crown Prince brother, I know you're worried about Feng Yao. Feng Qinghue's face showed even more concern. But now that he's done such a thing, if we continue to hide it, we'll be harming him. His expression was conflicted, as if he had made a major decision. He spoke loudly. Last night, I saw Yao sneak out of the mansion with a strange man in the middle of the night. As soon as these words were spoken, the onlookers all showed surprised expressions. Feng Qinghue, to slander me, you don't even need to think before you lie? Oh, I must have been seeing things. How can my sister do something to betray the ninth prince? This is a marriage arranged by His Majesty himself. A hint of mockery appeared in Feng Yao's eyes. Then tell me, what did that strange man look like? Feng Qinghue looked at the carriage. It had no markings. He bit his lip. He stammered, it was too dark last night. I only saw a silhouette. You left with a man. Feng Qinghue's firm tone made Ji Zijuan trust him a bit more. He looked at Feng Yao with surprise and asked coldly, is what you were said all true? Feng Yao looked up, staring coldly at Ji Zijuan. The corner of her lips curled into a reckless, charming sneer. Ji Zijuan, we grew up together as childhood friends, but you've never trusted me. Hearing this, Ji Zijuan hurriedly explained, Yao, that's not what I meant. Feng Yao didn't give Ji Zijuan a chance to speak. Her eyes were cold as ice, like sharp swords, staring coldly at Feng Qinghue. The sneer on her lips was like ice that wouldn't melt for 10,000 years. Your trust means nothing to me. At this moment, a man's light laughter suddenly came from inside the carriage. That voice was as cold as snow, carrying a hint of ruthless indifference. The next moment, a slender, jade-like hand reached out from inside the carriage and lifted the curtain. In an instant, the edge of a white robe was revealed. Seeing this movement, the onlookers all craned their necks, wanting to see who the strange man Feng Qinghue mentioned was. Second Miss Feng, every time new clothes and jewelry arrive at the mansion, you always get to choose first. Yao hardly has any, so this prince took Yao to select some jewelry and clothes. As Yao's sister, why do you slander her like this? Feng Qinghua lowered her eyes, dark light surging in them. Her face turned from green to red, extremely embarrassed, wishing she could find a hole to crawl into. Night Prince, I'm sorry. I must have seen wrong last night. That woman just looked a bit like Yao Yao. Ji Liyuan's gaze was cold and icy. I'm not the one you should apologize to. Feng Qingyue's chest heaved slightly with anger. When she raised her head again, her eyes were filled with tears. She then reluctantly bowed slightly to Feng Yao. Sister, I'm sorry. At this time, Ji Zijuan advised, next time don't speak carelessly about things you're not sure of. Ji Zijuan stepped forward, looking at Yao Yao with a complex expression. Yao Yao, what happened just now is my fault. I shouldn't have doubted you and questioned you. Feng Yao stepped back, raising her hand to block Ji Zijuan, looking at him as if he were a stranger. Your Highness the Crown Prince, our engagement has long been dissolved. Please don't call me that anymore. After saying this, she walked to Ji Liyuan's side and looked at Ji Zijuan. Your Highness the Crown Prince, from now on, please call me Royal Sister-in-Law, lest Liyuan gets angry. This was the first time Ji Liyuan felt that his name sounded so good. The corner of his lips curled slightly, revealing a faint smile. Liyuan's face was cold. Your Highness the Crown Prince, now that you've seen this prince, you don't even call me Royal Uncle anymore. Ji Zijuan's face darkened slightly. In the end, he still cupped his hands and bowed. Uncle, and your aunt, Ji Zijuan said. Uncle and Yao Yao are not yet married. Calling her aunt now is not appropriate. Without waiting for Ji Liyuan to speak, the Phoenix Demon retorted bluntly. The Crown Prince has been calling me by my name. Is that appropriate? You'll have to call me aunt sooner or later. The Crown Prince should get used to it early. Ji Zijuan suddenly felt a rush of heat to his head, burning with anger. In the past, whenever he was bullied, Yao Yao always stood by his side. Now she was standing on his uncle's side. This feeling was extremely uncomfortable. The Phoenix Demon turned to Ji Liyuan beside her and said softly, Liyuan, do you want to sit in my courtyard for a while? Then Lu Chengjun pushed the wheelchair into the mansion, with the Phoenix Demon following beside. As soon as they entered, they saw Feng Yuqing with an ashen face, angrily scolding the Phoenix Demon. You don't come home. Yue was just worried about your reputation and advised you a few more times. Yet you scolded him. Feng Yao, when did you become so unreasonable and rude? Feng Qingyue's eyes were slightly red, with traces of tears on his face, looking pitiful. At this time, Lu Shi was fanning the flames on the side. Master, I think he's relying on his status as the future Ninth Prince's wife and doesn't take us seriously. The Phoenix Demon was scolded, but didn't get angry. He looked at them calmly. So the whole family is ganging up on me, huh? Before Feng Yao could speak, Ji Liyuan's cold voice suddenly rang out. Since you know he's the future Ninth Prince's wife, you dare to be disrespectful to him. It seems you don't take this prince seriously. Hearing this, Feng Yuqing's eyes flickered with thought. Ninth Prince, now that you and Yao Yao are not married, he can't be considered the Ninth Prince's wife. Moreover, you two are living together before the wedding ceremony. If this gets out, where will the Feng family put their face? Feng Yuqing's words were very impertinent, not giving Ji Liyuan any face at all. Even Ziyuan couldn't stand it anymore. It's fine if outsiders don't believe, but Master Feng is Yao Yao's own uncle, yet he questions Yao Yao's chastity like this. Ji Liyuan's face gradually turned cold, a contemptuous smile curling at the corner of his mouth. Yesterday, Yao Yao came to the mansion to visit this prince. Only because this prince's leg condition flared up, Yao Yao stayed late at the prince's mansion to take care of me. But this prince and Yao Yao did not cross any boundaries. But your Feng family's second young miss has been spreading rumors outside. Those who don't know might think you and Yao Yao are enemies. Ji Liyuan's face gradually softened when facing the Phoenix Demon. Yao Yao, your days in this mansion must not be easy. From now on, I'll assign 10 elite guards to protect you secretly. His domineering tone made the Phoenix Demon's heart very happy. She nodded. With you here, no one dares to bully me. Ji Liyuan turned his face towards them. If anyone seeks death, then I'll grant their wish. His cold tone carried a strong threat. Feng Yuqing's face suddenly darkened. Time flew by. The Phoenix Demon continued to try alchemy in the Ninth Prince's mansion. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and thick smoke filled the mansion. The old steward stood in the courtyard, looking at the closed door. The princess consort is really stubborn. She still doesn't give up after so many failures. The old steward brewed tea and respectfully handed it to Ji Liyuan with both hands. Today, the princess consort has been in the alchemy room for 3 hours before the furnace exploded. This old servant hasn't heard any sound for so long. It feels a bit strange. Lu Qingjun rolled his eyes speechlessly. If this keeps exploding like this, the entire prince's mansion will be torn down sooner or later. A faint smile appeared on Ji Liyuan's lips. He's made great progress and is very smart. The first time he practiced alchemy, he exploded 15 times. It's only been 4 days, and he's only exploded 5 times. Lu Qingjun complained, "Master, only you indulge him like this. Do you know that every time he blows up a pot, it wastes more than 10 herbs? At this rate, the prince's mansion's herb storage will be depleted by him alone." The old steward glared at Lu Qingjun. As long as the prince and princess consort are happy, what does it matter if we lose some herbs? You little one have no sense. Haven't you seen the smile on the prince's face? We haven't seen the prince smile in 10 years. At this time, Ziyuan was bored, dozing off on the table. Suddenly, she was awakened by a shout of success. The phoenix demon opened the furnace. Inside lay 5 small, lustrous white pills. A smile appeared on her face. Actually, 5 pills. Ziyuan came over to look and couldn't help but exclaim in amazement. Self-taught, able to produce pills in just a few days, and 5 in one furnace. You're a born alchemist. Feng Yao excitedly said, "This is the most basic heart power pill. It's so simple. It's recorded in the medical books my mother left behind." Ziyuan shook her head. What's written in books and actual practice are 2 different things. You're just a genius at pill refining. If everyone could understand medical books and texts, and could learn on their own, I'm afraid alchemists would be everywhere. Feng Yao put away the pill, carefully storing it in a pre-prepared bottle. He smiled at Ziyuan, saying he would be even more diligent and hardworking. Ji Liyuan rarely raised his face to look at the sky, feeling the cool breeze on his face. At the old butler's suggestion, Ji Liyuan invited the princess consort for a lake tour today, forcing Feng Yao to take a day off. Lu Qingjun had arranged the painted boat early in the morning. The moat of Wushuang City was in the outer city area, encircling the entire Wushuang City. The water was clear and sparkling. At this moment, Feng Yao was lying on the painted boat, leisurely eating grapes. This life was very comfortable. It seemed being the 9th prince's consort wasn't bad at all. Lu Qingjun suddenly came over and said, "Master, there's a painted boat coming ahead. It seems to be the crown prince and the 5th prince and others." Feng Yao was stunned upon hearing this. It was really an unlucky year, even encountering people he didn't want to see on a simple lake tour. Feng Yao lowered the curtain and sat back on the couch, pretending not to have seen them. He didn't want these people to affect his mood for the lake tour. Ji Liyuan added, "Then, as the princess consort said, let's pretend we didn't see them." As the 2 painted boats gradually approached, Feng Yao heard that they were actually discussing him. A man's voice was heard saying, "I heard that after the 3rd miss of the Feng family broke off her engagement with the crown prince, she was so shocked that she threw herself into the 9th prince's arms. An unmarried woman staying out all night, it's so bold and unrestrained. It's really shocking." Another said, "What do you expect? She knows she's useless and hard to marry off, so she clings to whoever she can find." Feng Yao's face suddenly darkened. These men had actually come here in a group to insult him. Lu Qingjun, seeing his master's face darken slightly, coldly asked, "Do you want this subordinate to teach them a lesson?" Before Ji Liyuan could speak, Feng Yao raised his hand to stop him. "No need to argue with these petty people. It would spoil today's enjoyment." Feng Yao's lips curled into a faint smile. If we care about everyone's words and looks all the time, wouldn't we be exhausted for a lifetime? Hearing this, Lu Qingjun's face showed shock and admiration. He praised, "I didn't expect the princess consort to have such a broad-minded vision at such a young age. It's this subordinate who was shallow." A hint of surprise appeared on Ji Liyuan's face. Just then, the calm water suddenly rolled up huge waves, crashing onto the shore. Feng Qingwei and the others were caught off guard, all becoming drenched and in a sorry state. "What's going on?" someone asked in panic. The moat suddenly started having waves. Lu Qingjun immediately left the painted boat. "Master, it seems there are big waves on the princess consort side." However, before Feng Qingwei and the others could figure out what was happening, huge waves came crashing down on the painted boat, causing a series of screams. The accompanying guards, ladies, and maids all scattered. At this time, Feng Qingwei lightly tapped the tip of his foot on the painted boat, his entire body rising into the air gracefully avoiding the waves. Ji Zijuan flew to his side, the two looking like a pair of golden boy and jade girl, very compatible and harmonious. At this moment, Ji Zian was dog-paddling in the water, shouting for help. Feng Qinghue had no intention of saving Ji Zian. He was about to leap towards the shore when suddenly a black long tail emerged from the water. In an instant, the long tail wrapped around Feng Qinghue, and then the tail used force. It pulled Feng Qinghue into the river. Ji Zijuan was shocked and jumped into the river without thinking. Where? Feng Yao saw the black long tail through the curtain, and his face immediately darkened. It turned out to be Ziyuan's mischief. He asked in his heart, "Ziyuan, what are you doing?" Ziyuan's voice sounded in Feng Yao's mind, teaching these gossip mongers a lesson. Let's see if they dare to do it again next time. Feng Yao's mouth twitched helplessly. You've finally come out. If your enemy discovers you and seals you back in the Black Dragon Pool, we'll talk about it then. Anyway, you're my master. I won't allow others to insult you. Before Feng Yao could feel touched for a second, Ziyuan silently returned his wrist. The entire moat gradually returned to its usual calmness. After the painted boat slowly docked, Lu Changjun pushed Ji Liyuan towards the painted boat. Feng Yao then followed behind. Feng Yao had just reached the shore when she saw Ji Zijuan swimming out of the water, carrying the unconscious Feng Qinghue in his arms. Ji Zijuan turned his head and saw Feng Yao. He was surprised. Yao Yao, why are you here? Is uncle here too? Feng Yao's eyes swept over the unconscious Feng Qinghue in his arms. Your Highness, the person you should be concerned about is your crown princess. Ji Liyuan stepped off the moss and said calmly, Your Highness, if you delay any longer, I'm afraid the crown princess's face will be ruined. Ji Zijuan looked at the unconscious Feng Qinghue in his arms. He saw a thin, long wound on her face, with blood staining half of her cheek. At this moment, Feng Qinghue's eyes were tightly closed, her breath weak. Ji Zijuan hurriedly picked up Feng Qinghue and turned to leave. Screams, angry shouts, and sounds of things being thrown could be heard from Qingyin Pavilion in the Feng Mansion. On her once pretty face, there was now a deep, long scar. She was shocked and furious, especially after hearing the doctors inside say that the scar on her face couldn't be cured. She was so angry that her clothes trembled with her body. Feng Qinghue angrily cursed. Quacks. A bunch of quacks. If you can't cure my face, I'll have you all dragged out and beheaded. The old imperial doctor frowned and said displeased, Miss Feng, we are imperial doctors, not physicians employed by your Feng family. You have no right to beat or scold us, let alone behead us. Another old imperial doctor also looked displeased. If it weren't for the crown prince's orders, we wouldn't have come to the Feng mansion at all. Second madam, we can't treat your young Mrs. condition. Please excuse us. We'll take our leave. The two old imperial doctors left, and the remaining physicians hurriedly followed. If they stayed, they might be scolded for their efforts being in vain. She was both angry and helpless as she said, I've told you so many times to control your temper a bit. Control it a bit. Why don't you ever listen? Feng Qinghue's eyes immediately turned red, and she started crying. Mother, if my face can't be cured, it will be ruined. I don't want to be disfigured. They're just a bunch of quacks. They can't even cure such a small injury. At this moment, Feng Yao smiled mischievously. Well, it seems I've come at just the right time. Sister-in-law Lu saw Feng Yao and immediately shouted, What are you doing here? Have you come to kick us while we're down? Get out quickly. Feng Yao looked at Lu. I'm here to visit my sister. Feng Qinghue glanced at her. You deliberately came at this time to laugh at me, didn't you? Feng Yao took out a medicine bottle. Sister, I came specifically to bring you medicine. Lu looked at Feng Qinghue. Their eyes met, both very surprised. Feng Yao slowly mocked. Aunt, you know, I've always cared about my sister the most. From childhood to adulthood, whenever my sister was sick, I would come to donate blood, afraid that she might die from illness. Lu heard this and angrily said, Oh, so you've come to settle scores. It was your own choice back then. No one forced you. Feng Yao's lips curled up slightly. Don't worry, I'm not here to kick you while you're down today. This is the rejuvenating pill that I asked the 9th prince to buy for me. No matter what kind of scar, it can be fully healed within half a year, leaving no trace. Lu shouted, Moon, be careful. She might be poisoning you. Feng Yao handed over the medicine. Relax, who would poison someone so openly? Feng Qinghua eagerly poured out the medicine. Why is there only one pill? Feng Yao replied, this one is for you to try. Only the 9th prince can buy this pill. How about 20,000 taels for one? Lu immediately scolded. 20,000 taels for one pill? To eat for half a year, why don't you just rob us? Feng Qinghua looked at the pill in her hand. If it really works, even 200,000 taels would be worth it. The next day, Feng Yao used a veil to cover her exquisitely beautiful face and headed towards the Star Chamber of Commerce. At this time, Ziyuan laughed. 20,000 for one. You really dare to name a price. Feng Yao said seriously, my sister would pay any price for beauty. Anyway, the imperial doctors have given up. She can only pin her hopes on my rejuvenating pill. Ziyuan agreed. Right, after half a year when you've cultivated enough, everything will be easier to handle. The shop assistant saw Feng Yao and said with a smile, Miss, our president has arrived. The chairman was an elderly man. Feng Yao bowed to the old man, then took out all the bottles. Feng Yao said, inside these are the heart force pills, healing pills, and foundation strengthening pills I've refined. The old man invited Feng Yao to sit down. After appraising them, the old man looked at Feng Yao and said, excellent quality. Good pills. Very good pills. The old man excitedly quoted prices. Currently, the market price for Star Force pills is 1,000 taels each. Healing pills and foundation strengthening pills are more expensive, 3,000 taels each. If we have a long-term cooperation, I'll only charge you 10% in fees. Feng Yao furrowed her brows and thought for a while. The Star Merchant Association's prices were very fair. Then Feng Yao opened a box. Inside are the rejuvenation pills I've refined, priced at 10,000 taels each. Please sell these as well. The old man asked, puzzled. I've never heard of rejuvenation pills. Miss, please tell me about the effects of these pills. I'll do my best to promote them, but I can't guarantee if they'll sell at 10,000 taels each. Feng Yao smiled. Don't worry, you won't need to put in much effort. People will definitely come to the Star Merchant Association asking about the rejuvenation pills. Feng Yao laughed inwardly. Even at 15,000 taels, he would buy them all. Yao arrived at the 9th prince's mansion to perform acupuncture on Ji Li Yuan. She said that much of the toxin had been expelled. If he wanted to stand up again, they must find the life-renewing, bone-mending broken whisker dragon bone grass. Lu Changjun said, this herb is extremely rare. It might only appear once every 1,000 years. Feng Yao calmly said, as long as it exists in this world, there's always a way to find it. At this moment, Ji Li Yuan suddenly asked, Yao, have you really thought it through about marrying a useless person like me? When His Majesty arranged the marriage, I hadn't really decided to agree. It was just a temporary measure. But after spending these days together, although there's no flutter of love, being with you is very comfortable. There are no schemes or calculations. It's very relaxing. I suddenly feel this kind of life is quite good. Feng Yao was stunned for a moment, then smiled. Don't worry, I'll take care of you. Hearing this, Li Yuan's lips curled into a slight smile. I have Lu Chengjun and the others to take care of me. After a pause, he continued, your talent in pill making is exceptional. Given time, you'll surely stand at the pinnacle of this continent. Just go and do what you want to do. The 9th prince's mansion won't become a cage that binds you. Feng Yao was stunned, looking at him with some surprise. She then turned to look at the smug Lu Changjun beside them. Then she turned back and exclaimed, then I'll not only take care of you, I'll also cure you. The next day, Feng Yao came to the Star Merchant Association. The Star Merchant Association occupied a vast area with exquisite and grand buildings. As Feng Yao walked around, she was amazed. The old man said, Miss Feng, the proceeds from selling your pills have been stored in your storage ring. Suddenly, in the back courtyard of the association, Feng Yao paused, her gaze falling on a stone tablet. Seeing Feng Yao curiously staring at the soul testing stone, the old man smiled and said, this is the soul testing stone. It can test your soul and also your talent. Miss Feng, if you're interested, you could try it. Feng Yao walked up to the soul testing stone and did as the old man instructed. First, she circulated the star's soul power within her body and infused it into the soul testing stone. In an instant, a dazzling purple light burst forth from the soul testing stone. This scene left the old man dumbfounded. His face showed shock and awe. Seeing the old man's shocked expression, Feng Yao asked Ziyuan her mind, "Is purple very powerful? I haven't even used my full strength yet." Ziyuan laughed. Purple is the highest known level of star soul on the continent. After a brief moment of shock, the old man recovered and excitedly looked at Feng Yao. "Miss Feng, would you like to test your mental power as well?" Feng Yao nodded. "Since we're here, might as well test it all." The old man, with a face full of joy, said, "You just need to close your eyes and try to attack this soul testing stone with your mental power." So Feng Yao closed her eyes, released her mental power, and fiercely struck at the soul testing stone. Then there was a muffled bang, and the entire soul testing stone suddenly split into two halves, shattering to pieces on the ground. Feng Yao widened her eyes in surprise and innocence. She looked at the fragments on the ground, then at the stunned old man. "Has this soul-testing stone been used for a long time?" The old man said in bewilderment. "The soul-testing stone is extremely hard. Even the god of war couldn't shatter it with one punch. How is this possible?" Feng Yao asked confusedly. "Then why did it suddenly break? I hadn't even used force yet. How much does this soul stone cost?" "I'll compensate dash." The old man quickly waved his hand. "Miss, don't worry about it. This one couldn't test. I still have more." Then the old man shouted loudly, "Come here. Bring all the soul-testing stones from the warehouse." The old man stared at Feng Yao excitedly. "Quick, test them. Keep testing until we get a result." There was another crisp bang, and the soul-testing stone shattered again. By now, the back courtyard of the guild was in chaos. Feng Yao said helplessly, "Old man, why don't we just stop testing?" The old man came to his senses and swallowed. "Miss Feng, I didn't expect you to have a mortal-level spiritual power and even possess a purple-level star soul." At this point, the old man looked at Feng Yao with a face full of smiles, as if looking at a delicious treat. The old man excitedly ordered people to bring over the largest soul-testing stone from the warehouse. "Miss Feng, quickly test it." The old man stared at her with excited and fiery eyes, his face also full of smiles. That smile was indescribably creepy and lecherous. Feng Yao once again concentrated her spiritual power and struck the soul-testing stone. A dazzling golden light burst forth from the stone. "Golden!" The old man's eyes surged with shock and awe. "It's immortal-level spiritual power." Ziyuan asked puzzledly, "Why didn't you use full power?" "This giant soul-testing stone should be able to withstand your spiritual power." At this time, the old man swallowed and explained, "Golden color represents immortal-level spiritual power. Those who possess it are undoubtedly powerful figures who dominate a region. As for god level, that only appears in legends." Ziyuan smiled and said, "If you used full power, you could let him witness a god level in his lifetime." Feng Yao lowered her head and replied, "That would bring many inconveniences." "Miss Feng, this is our Star Guild's VIP token. As long as you wear this ring, wherever you go, as long as it's a place with Star Guild, you can enjoy the highest treatment." Feng Yao knew this was the old man's hobby, so she thanked him. The old man nodded, thinking to himself that although the girl before him was young, her spiritual power and star soul were extraordinary. She would surely become a dragon among people in the future. He needed to quickly send the news to headquarters. At this time, Feng Yao asked, "Old man, have you heard of a medicinal herb called dragon whisker grass?" Hearing this, the old man narrowed his eyes, showing a thoughtful look. "Dragon whisker grass. I remember now. Dragon whisker grass likes cold, so it generally grows in extremely cold places. The snow-cold mountain in the Northern Territory might have some." Feng Yao nodded slightly, but a thoughtful look appeared in her eyes. It seemed she needed to find an opportunity to visit Snow-Cold Mountain. The old man thought for a moment and said honestly, "Miss Feng, do you need dragon whisker grass? I can send a message to headquarters and have Star Guild collect it from the outside world. You just need to pay the purchase cost." Hearing this, Feng Yao's eyes lit up. "That's great. Then I'll trouble you with this, old man." Feng Yao thought to herself that with her current strength, going to Snow-Cold Mountain was still too dangerous. It was fortunate that the old man could help. When Feng Yao walked out of the room, she realized the courtyard was full of people. They were all looking at Feng Yao with surprised, astonished, or inquisitive gazes. Seeing Feng Yao and the old man come out, everyone gathered around and asked, "Chairman, did this young lady break several soul-testing stones? It's a pity her face is covered with a veil. We can't see her true appearance. Chairman, did you really test immortal-level spiritual power? Tell us your thoughts." The chairman hurriedly waved his hands. "Regarding this matter, I have nothing to say. Please make way, everyone." At this moment, a tall and straight figure walked out from the crowd. "Is this the Miss Feng rumored to refine and sell pills?" Feng Yao raised her eyebrows slightly and looked at Ji Zijuan. A flash of surprise quickly passed through her eyes. Why was he here? Ziyuan secretly thought. How is he like a dog, coming as soon as he smells something? Ji Zijuan walked in front of Feng Yao, cupped his hands, and bowed. "Miss Feng, I'm here to invite you to enter the palace and serve as the royal alchemist of the Northern Yen Kingdom." The corners of Feng Yao's mouth under her veil tightened slightly. "Thank you, Your Highness the Crown Prince, but I don't want to enter the palace." With that, Feng Yao was about to leave Ji. However, Zijuan blocked the way. He asked urgently, "Miss Feng, you can name any conditions. You can freely enter and exit the palace. The royal family can satisfy all your needs. Abundant cultivation resources, alchemy ingredients." The elder looked at Feng Yao and said, "Miss Feng, these conditions are very generous. You should consider it." Feng Yao pondered for a moment and replied, "All right then. But if the royal family tries to restrain or oppress me, I will leave." Ji Zijuan quickly untied a pure gold token from his waist. "This is my token. With this, you can freely enter and exit the palace." Ji Zijuan handed the token to Feng Yao and said, "Miss Feng, I swear the royal family will never use power to constrain you. Everyone here can be witnesses." Feng Yao arrived at the ninth prince's mansion. Seeing Ji Liyuan, Feng Yao felt warmth in her heart. Her lips curled up slightly. Ji Liyuan smiled faintly. "Yao Yao, I bought you the snow cakes and water chestnut cakes you like." Feng Yao's eyes lit up. She took the food from his hand, sniffed it, and then closed her eyes in delight. "It smells so good. Thank you, ninth prince." Feng Yao looked at Ji Liyuan and said, "Oh, by the way, I met Ji Zijuan at the Star Chamber of Commerce earlier. He invited me to be the Imperial Alchemist." Feng Yao pushed Ji Liyuan, preparing for acupuncture. Ji Liyuan asked, "Did he recognize you?" Feng Yao quickly replied, "No, I was well disguised. I've been using a lot of the ninth prince's mansion's herbs to make pills lately. I can't keep wasting your resources alone, so I agreed." Ji Liyuan said in a deep voice, "The ninth prince's mansion doesn't lack those things. I'm only worried about your identity being exposed. Even if it is exposed, there won't be any danger. Northern Yen lacks alchemists too much. Just wait for me to get some benefits from Ji Zijuan to replenish your storehouse." A day passed in the blink of an eye. Feng Yao walked out of the alchemy room, covered in dust, her hair messy and blue, her face haggard. It was clear she had been working hard for a long time. Seeing Feng Yao like this, the old steward felt heartbroken. "Princess consort, you've finally come out. You must be very hungry. I've had meals prepared." Feng Yao smiled and said, "I'm not very hungry yet. Let's go see the ninth prince first." A maid nearby said, "The ninth prince has been waiting for you for a long time." At this moment, Feng Yao walked into the courtyard and realized that Ji Liyuan was already waiting there. Ji Liyuan's moist voice sounded, with a gentle smile on his lips. "I saw you were in seclusion for 10 days and hadn't come out. I was a bit worried." The maid whispered to Feng Yao, "Actually, the prince waited outside the door until very late every day before leaving. Here are 200 marrow cleansing pills." Feng Yao took out 10 jade bottles and placed them in front of Ji Liyuan. Lu Changjun exclaimed in shock, "Princess consort, you were only in seclusion for 10 days, yet you made 200 marrow cleansing pills. That's equivalent to making 20 pills a day." Feng Yao looked at Lu Changjun and said, "Split them equally between you and your prince." Lu Qingjun was somewhat disbelieving. He picked up one of the jade bottles, opened the lid, and smelled it. It was refreshing and invigorating. He poured out a marrow cleansing pill. The pill was bright white, with a vibrant color and fragrant aroma. It was indeed a real marrow cleansing pill. After a brief moment of shock, Ji Liyuan regained his composure. 20 pills a day. This production rate was unprecedentedly high. Even the Pill King might not be able to achieve this. Feng Yao smiled and said, "It was just luck. This is payment for using your place and taking your herbs for free." Ji Liyuan's lips curled slightly, his eyes showing a hint of helpless amusement. You don't need to be so polite with me. Feng Yao insisted. You may not need it, but your subordinates might. You sent secret guards to protect me. Consider this a token of my gratitude to them. Li Yuan told Lu Qingjun to accept these 100 marrow cleansing pills. Lu Qingjun suddenly felt the weight of the 100 marrow cleansing pills in his hand. If they were to enter the market, they would definitely cause a frenzy. One pill could sell for tens of thousands of gold taels. 100 pills? My goodness, how much money would that be? Lu Qingjun suddenly felt he couldn't do the math anymore. At this moment, Feng Yao looked at Ji Liyuan and said, I need to return to the Feng mansion for a while. I'll come back tomorrow to continue brewing wine for the Wine King. Feng Yao walked along the small path in her family's garden, heading towards the east courtyard. Suddenly, a figure, looking panicked, quickly walked out from a nearby stone path. They bumped directly into Feng Yao. Without even raising their head, that person angrily scolded, Are you blind? How dare you bump into this young master? That person shouted angrily and raised their head. When he saw Feng Yao before him, a flash of amazement appeared in his eyes. He didn't expect such a beautiful maid in the Feng mansion. Feng Yao noticed him staring at her lustfully and frowned in displeasure. Who are you? How dare you barge into the Feng mansion like this? The man shouted coldly. How bold! You dare speak to me like that? Which courtyard's maid are you? Do you know who I am? As he spoke, he reached out his lecherous hand, attempting to grab Feng Yao. Just as his hand was about to grab Feng Yao, it was caught by a slender hand at the wrist. Feng Yao's hand twisted, and immediately a piercing scream from the young man echoed through the garden. With a crisp crack, Feng Yao directly broke his bone. She let go and kicked out, sending the man flying into the flower bushes. The man crawled out of the bushes, his clothes filthy and disheveled. He glared at Feng Yao, his eyes bulging as if he wanted to devour her. You're seeking death, daring to hit me. As he spoke, Star's soul power surged through his body. He raised his uninjured right hand, clenching it into a fist. Star's soul power swirled around his fist. You bitch. Feng Yao narrowed her eyes slightly. No wonder this man was so arrogant. He was actually a 9-star martial artist. Feng Yao wasn't afraid. She simply flashed away, perfectly avoiding the man's incoming fist. This attack was extremely fierce, with the intention of killing Feng Yao. Feng Yao's brows furrowed slightly. She thought if she used Star Soul power to cultivate, her secret would be exposed. It's better to let the guards and the 9th Prince's assassins handle this. Just as Feng Yao was hesitating, a figure rushed over and directly broke his other arm as well. Feng Yao looked at the newcomer, Ji Zijuan. Immediately, another scream was heard from the man. Ji Zijuan let go, and the man was kicked into the flower bushes again. The man crawled out again, his face a mix of blue and purple, looking terrible. He roared at Ji Zijuan. You little bastard, how dare you hurt me? Are you tired of living? You two just wait. This matter won't end easily. Wait until I report to the family head. He will seek justice for me. Ji Zijuan calmly glanced at the man. Come on, I don't care whose family you're from. Feel free to come find me. Hearing this, the man's jaw dropped in shock. He exclaimed, You're the Crown Prince of Yin, Ji Zijuan. The man's gaze turned sinister as he said, So you're my cousin-in-law. That's good. You judge then. She broke my arm. Shouldn't she apologize and compensate me? Ji Zijuan looked at Lu Xingbai, but I clearly saw you bumping into her first. Lu Xingbai was stunned. That useless girl from the Feng family? Ji Zijuan's former fiancée. Lu Xingbai raised an eyebrow. Cousin-in-law, where hasn't even married you yet, and you're already so intimate with another woman. If this gets out, it won't look good for your reputation. Ji Zijuan was startled. He thought, the Lu family is one of the 4 great families in Mo City. If he started a conflict with them because of Yao Yao, Father Emperor would surely blame him. So he smiled and said, I'll return to the palace immediately and send a royal physician to treat you, along with generous gifts as compensation. Let's settle this matter here. Lu Xingbai said smugly, Since cousin-in-law is so sincere about reconciliation, it wouldn't be right for me to keep pressing the issue. Let's resolve it this way. I'll take my leave. Zi Yuan exclaimed in surprise. I didn't expect that even a scumbag could be useful sometimes. Ji Zijuan looked at Feng Yao gently. Yao Yao, are you all right? He took Feng Yao's hand, asking worriedly, Are you hurt anywhere? Feng Yao immediately shook off Ji Zijuan's hand and angrily said, Please mind your manners, Your Highness. Feng Yao, why do you always speak to me with such a tone and attitude? Feng Yao snorted coldly. Your Highness complained that I couldn't cultivate, broke off our engagement, and found someone new. Do you expect me to be grateful to you? Ji Zijuan looked heartbroken and said softly, I had no choice. Please don't resent me. Feng Yao said disdainfully, I don't have any resentment towards you. I just hope you won't disturb me again in the future. Please understand. Aunt Huang, I don't love you anymore. After saying that, he turned and left gracefully, not wanting to look at the hypocritical scumbag again. Looking at the Phoenix Demon's back, Ji Zijuan confidently said, We grew up together, childhood sweethearts. I don't believe you don't love me anymore. He secretly vowed in his heart, I will definitely make Father Emperor cancel your engagement to Uncle. The Phoenix Demon was enjoying tea at Tianyu Pavilion when she saw two people walking on the bridge. Seeing it was this mother and daughter, she felt very displeased. Sister, do you have something to discuss with me? Madame Lu quickly smiled and said, That appearance-changing pill you gave your sister last time. Do you have any more? Hearing this, the Phoenix Demon perked up at the chance to make money. Of course I do. I said last time it's 20,000 taels per pill. Madame Lu looked at the Phoenix Demon helplessly. The effect of the appearance-changing pill is very good, but it needs to be taken for half a year. The price is a bit expensive. The Phoenix Demon continued. Didn't Lu Xingbai bring medicine to treat scars from Mo City? Feng Qingwei quickly said, Cousin brought medicine. I ate a lot of it. That medicine can't compare to the appearance-changing pill at all. Madame Lu said in a deep voice, Yao Yao is your sister. Just give a few bottles to wear. Ziyuan laughed secretly. These mother and daughter are so thick-skinned. Just then, Lu Xingbai brought a group of people over and shouted angrily, Phoenix Demon, now that Ji Zijuan isn't here to back you up, you'd better kneel down and apologize obediently. Madame Lu and Feng Qingwei were suddenly very surprised. Madame Lu said, Xingbai, what are you going to do with so many people? Feng Qingwei said, Cousin, Yao Yao is my sister. What happened that you're treating her like this? Lu Xingbai pointed at the Phoenix Demon. She suddenly attacked me and broke my hand. Feng Qingwei tried to mediate. Yao Yao can't cultivate. She doesn't have that ability. There must be some misunderstanding. Lu Xingbai looked at Feng Qingwei with sharp eyes. Whose side are you on? If she won't kneel, that's fine. Let her serve me closely for a month. After all, my hand is injured. Feng Qingwen knew very well that the medicine her cousin brought was useless. Currently, she could only pin her hopes on the appearance-changing pill. She couldn't offend the Phoenix Demon now. At this moment, the Phoenix Demon slapped the table and slowly stood up. Dear sister, I can give you another bottle of appearance-changing pills, and I can tell you where to buy them. But I have only one requirement. As she spoke, she directly took out an appearance-changing pill. The mother and daughter immediately widened their eyes in surprise and exclaimed, Appearance-changing pill. They quickly asked, What's your requirement? The Phoenix Demon said, calmly and seriously, Help me drive this blustering scoundrel out of the Feng Mansion. Lu Xingbai confidently put his hand on Feng Qingyue's shoulder, looked at the Phoenix Demon, and said, I think you've gone mad. You think you can drive a wedge between us cousins with just a few bottles of some pills? Feng Qingyue lowered her head helplessly and gently pushed away her cousin's hand. She turned and smiled. Cousin, it was you who was rude to Yao Yao in the first place. You should leave now. Lu Xingbai looked at Feng Qingyue in confusion. Seeing her cousin's expression change, Feng Qingyue quickly said in a low voice, Cousin, once I get what I want, I will definitely make it up to you. Just consider this a favor to me. Don't make things difficult for me. Lu Xingbai gritted his teeth in anger. He said angrily, Let's go. He thought to himself that this matter wouldn't end here. Madame Lu hurriedly came forward to appease him. All right, nephew, calm down. At this moment, Feng Yao looked at Feng Qingwei and said, The appearance-changing pills are sold by the Star Chamber of Commerce. Sister can go take a look. Hearing this, Feng Qingyue's face was full of smiles. You're such a good sister. After I marry the crown prince, I will definitely repay you well. But in her heart, she thought, once the scars on my face are healed, I'll tear this bitch apart. The Phoenix Demon left Yu Pavilion and came to the market to take a stroll, intending to go to the Star Chamber of Commerce. Ziyuan reminded her, Girl, someone is following you. The Phoenix Demon thought, Do you know who it is? Ziyuan lazily said, Don't worry. He's He's a 5-star martial artist. I can blow him away with one breath. Feng Yao had an idea in mind. He turned and left directly. The stall owner, seeing the business slipping away, hurriedly called out, "Miss, there are other styles. Please take another look. What kind of person is this? Picking and choosing for so long, and ends up buying nothing." Feng Yao pretended not to notice the person secretly following behind, and finally walked into an alley. The man behind couldn't help but show a hint of joy in his eyes. He had been struggling with how to make a move with so many people on the street, but unexpectedly, the target had walked into a dead end. It was truly heaven sent. However, when he entered the alley, he found Feng Yao already waiting there. Feng Yao spoke up. "You were sent by Lu Hangbai." The man's face hardened, his eyes showing a hint of viciousness. "Good that you know. Will you come with me willingly? Or do I need to use force? Or do I need to make you?" Feng Yao stood still, his brows slightly furrowed. He angrily rebuked, "This is Wushuang City. I am the future 9th Prince Consort. If you touch me, you'll be making an enemy of the 9th Prince's mansion in the northern Yin country." "Huh, the mere 9th Prince's mansion? My Lu family doesn't even care about it, let alone a useless prince." The man sneered, "Since you won't come, it seems I'll have to use force." At this moment, Feng Yao's right hand under his sleeve suddenly gripped a silver needle. Taking advantage of the other's inattention, he fiercely stabbed it into the Tanzhong acupoint on the man's chest. The man felt a pain, but before he could react, Feng Yao immediately stabbed several more needles into various acupoints on the man's body. Gradually, a numbing sensation crept up. The man was shocked to find he couldn't move. He mumbled, "You're not useless?" Unable to cultivate, Feng Yao immediately called out, "Ziyuan." The man's eyes widened in horror. "Snake." He felt a pain in his neck, with warm blood flowing out. Suddenly, he felt he could move, but his body had become soft. The pain almost made him faint. Feng Yao turned around, raised his head slightly, and smiled. He said indifferently, "You've been poisoned. If you don't want to die, obey my arrangements. Of course, don't try to detoxify yourself, because you can't. This is the venom of the 1,000-year black-feathered snake. The toxicity is extremely violent, with no cure in the world. Whether you live or die, think it over carefully before coming to find me." After speaking, Feng Yao ignored the man and left gracefully. He muttered, "Go ask the elder how the search for herbs is going. This grievance comes before even getting married, always thinking of others." Arriving at the Star Chamber of Commerce, the elder immediately warmly welcomed him, bowing to Feng Yao and calling him Alchemist Feng. Feng Yao returned the greeting. "Elder, there's no need for such formality. Your generation and reputation are high. I can't accept this. You could just call me Feng Girl." The elder smiled and said, "If that's the case, I won't decline." As he spoke, the elder opened the box in his hand. "Feng Girl, the dragon whisker grass you asked me to find last time, I've already exchanged for you." This dragon whisker grass was exchanged from the Star Chamber of Commerce in the universe. It requires 20,000 taels of gold. The money from the pills you sold is just enough. Feng Yao was delighted upon hearing this and quickly took the box. Then he took out a small jade bottle and said, "This is the marrow cleansing pill as a thank you gift. There are 2 pills inside. One is for the elder, and one could be auctioned off by the Star Chamber of Commerce." After speaking, he turned and said, "Thank you for your trouble, elder. I'll head back now. The marrow cleansing pill is very difficult to refine, generally more chance than design." The elder was still immersed in joy. When he came to his senses, he quickly said, "All right, I'll arrange this matter. Take care." Looking at the little girl's back, the elder couldn't help but sigh. Feng Girl's talent for alchemy is too amazing. She also has golden spiritual power and purple star soul. I believe it won't be long before she stands at the top of the continent. After dinner, Feng Yao went to Chaofeng Pavilion to read books. At this time, a figure sneaked in stealthily. Feng Yao recognized him at a glance. It was Lu Zhan, the man sent by Lu Hangbai. Lu Zhan spoke in a low voice. "I've thought it through. I'm willing to obey Miss Feng's orders." Feng Yao raised an eyebrow at the person before him, coldly curling his lips. "Have you really thought it through?" "Yes." Third Miss Feng. Lu Zhan. He has searched all the physicians in the unparalleled Star City, yet none knew what this poison was. He could only come to Feng Yao for the antidote, albeit reluctantly. Hearing this, Feng Yao immediately put down the book in her hand and said sternly, "Good." With a creak, Feng Yao opened the door. At this moment, Lu Zhan's face was as pale as paper, his eyes filled with fear as he looked at Feng Yao. Then, Feng Yao took out half a black pill and handed it to Lu Zhan. This is half of the antidote. It can temporarily relieve your pain. If Lu Xingbai has any plans, you must tell me in advance. Lu Zhan quickly reached out to take it. Thank you, third Miss Feng, he said, and swallowed it without hesitation. Then he continued, Lu Xingbai has plans for tonight. He's meeting with a group of bandits outside the western suburbs. They're offering a reward to capture you, miss. He wants to bring you back for his amusement. After saying this, Lu Zhan looked at Feng Yao fearfully. Ziyuan thought to himself, be careful, he's in cahoots with Lu Xingbai. Hearing this, Feng Yao didn't get angry but smiled instead. Her eyes, like stars, were filled with a terrifying cold light. In that case, why don't you capture me and claim the reward? Lu Zhan was shocked, his eyes widening in disbelief, as if fearing he had misheard. Then shall we go now? As she spoke, Feng Yao stepped towards the courtyard exit. Yao could only hear the creaking sound of footsteps. Lu Zhan led Feng Yao to a mansion in the suburbs of unparalleled city. Eerie laughter could be heard from the courtyard. Feng Yao, you've fallen into our trap. Lu Xingbai emerged from the pitch-black night, his eyes full of excitement. He shouted, you bitch! How dare you poison Lu Zhan? He's a member of the Lu family, always loyal to us. To think you could turn Lu Zhan against us. How ridiculous. A smile that wasn't quite a smile appeared on Feng Yao's lips as she looked at Lu Zhan. So you were tricking me. Don't you want the antidote anymore? Lu Zhan snorted coldly. Once we've hurt you, we won't have to worry about finding the antidote from you. Feng Yao said lazily, ah, but you just took a fast-acting poison. Lu Zhan said in horror, what you gave me earlier was poison. As he spoke, Lu Zhan suddenly felt pain coursing through his bones and collapsed to the ground. He raised his hand to check his palm, which had already turned black and blue. That half pill was highly toxic. He then shouted, young master, save me. Feng Yao looked down at Lu Zhan with a condescending gaze. How could I possibly believe that a scoundrel who has always relied on others and committed evil deeds would work for me? Lu Xingbai's face suddenly turned gloomy. You're asking for death. Quickly catch her. Feng Yao's footwork became extremely agile at this moment, her figure moving left and right, back and forth, perfectly avoiding these servants each time. This set of movements was taught to her by Zen, called 100 turns, 1,000 returns. It was very useful for escaping or pursuing enemies. She dealt with these servants effortlessly. Lu Xingbai was very shocked. His brows furrowed, his expression becoming extremely cold. Bunch of useless trash. Am I feeding you for nothing? You can't even catch an ordinary person without a dantee on. At this moment, Star Soul power occasionally surged beneath Feng Yao's feet. Lu Xingbai suddenly understood. This is Star Soul power. He thought his cousin wouldn't lie to him, but he quickly shouted angrily, aren't you a useless waste who can't cultivate? Why do you have Star Soul power? The corners of Feng Yao's mouth slightly lifted. Guess. Lu Xingbai directly pulled out the silver whip from his waist. With a flick of his hand, he said eerily, I've heard that people who fall into the Black Dragon Pool never come out alive. It seems the Black Dragon Pool has allowed you to cultivate again. Tell me how you're cultivating, and I'll spare your life. Feng Yao looked at Lu Xingbai with furrowed brows. So you want to get serious? She directly took out the sword she carried and pointed it at Lu Xingbai. The corner of her mouth curled into a disdainful sneer. The one who should be thinking about how to survive is you. Now Lu Xingbai was clearly on guard. So, Feng Yao could only have a real fight with Lu Xingbai. Bang! The two swords collided, sparking hot flames in the dark night. Lu Xingbai felt his wrist go numb, and he involuntarily took 2 steps back before stabilizing himself. In contrast, Feng Yao on the opposite side also couldn't help but retreat 3 or 4 steps. This was an insult to Lu Xingbai. As a 1-star martial master, while Feng Yao was only a 6-star warrior who had just started training, she actually managed to block his sword without getting hurt. How could he accept this? Lu Xingbai's face became even more gloomy and terrifying. He let out a roar. Behind him, a huge tiger phantom appeared, angrily howling and baring its sharp fangs. Feng Yao frowned slightly. So his star soul was a fierce tiger. It was indeed frightening. Feng Yao quickly made hand seals. Before the tiger could pounce, a phantom of a fire phoenix rose behind her. It let out a clear phoenix cry. The star souls of the tiger and phoenix clashed violently. The fierce tiger's star soul let out a whimper, and its phantom suddenly disappeared into thin air. Whoosh! Lu Xingbai's face changed, and he opened his mouth to spit out a mouthful of fresh blood. His eyes widened, filled with anger and unwillingness. No, this is impossible. A one-star martial master actually can't beat this waste. At this moment, Feng Yao's face was slightly pale. She put away her phoenix star soul, the corner of her mouth curling into a sneer. Thanks to your Lu family providing evil methods to Feng Yu City, digging out my celestial bone, it gave me the opportunity to create Dantian cultivation. At this time, Ziyuan reminded, be careful, he still has strength left. Looking at Lu Xingbai, who seemed like a spent arrow, Feng Yao gripped her sword tightly and went straight for him. With a muffled thud, the sword unhesitatingly pierced Lu Xingbai's chest. This sword is my thank you gift to the Lu family. Lu Xingbai's body stiffened, his eyes bloodshot, looking at his chest in disbelief. That sword that had pierced through. He actually dared. At this moment, with bone-chilling hatred surging in his eyes, Lu Xingbai directly grabbed Feng Yao. A star soul array diagram flashed under his feet. He made hand seals, and a terrifying aura emanated from his body. His body began to rapidly inflate like a balloon. At this moment, Lu Xingbai's face revealed a crazed, ferocious smile. Haha, you can die with me. Feng Yao's face changed drastically. Self-detonation? At this time, Ziyuan's voice sounded in her mind. His self-detonation power will increase threefold. The entire courtyard will be razed to the ground. Feng Yao hadn't expected him to choose self-detonation. Just as the huge balloon was rapidly rolling towards Feng Yao, suddenly a figure appeared from the dark night like a ghost. The figure threw a punch and a palm strike, hitting Lu Xingbai's inflated face hard. In an instant, the charging Lu Xingbai was kicked flying. As Feng Yao was puzzled, she heard, "Third Miss Feng, we are death soldiers sent by the prince. Third Miss Feng, quickly leave." Then Lu Xingbai's body exploded in mid-air, completely turning into a mist of blood, dissipating in the air. The entire courtyard and house were instantly razed to the ground, with dust flying everywhere. Feng Yao was blown away by the aftershock. However, she didn't suffer any injury, but fell into a broad and solid chest. That chest seemed to have a slightly cold feeling, yet it was full of security. Feng Yao was shocked. She looked up at the person in front of her, widening her eyes in surprise. Ji Liyuan, why are you here? Ji Liyuan didn't answer Feng Yao's question. Instead, his inner soul surged, and along with the entire wheelchair beneath him, they rose into the air, flying up to the sky. A flash of surprise quickly passed through Feng Yao's eyes. Is his strength really this powerful? This is flying in the air, right? It is said that only when one's strength reaches the realm of martial god can they completely fly in the air. Ji Liyue coldly curled his lips. We're in the same boat now. Next time if something like this happens again, you can come to me. Feng Yao nodded obediently. The next moment, Ji Liyue frowned. You're injured. Feng Yao didn't hide it. It's nothing. Just a small wound from a whip. I'll apply some medicine when I get back. Pai Lai Yuan's voice slowly sounded. Lu Hangbai is from the Lu family in Mo City. He died here. The Lu family will definitely send people to investigate. And the wounds left by Lu Hongbai's silverbone whip are extremely difficult to heal. If you return to the Feng mansion now, it will surely arouse their suspicion. Feng Yao frowned slightly. This was something he hadn't thought of. This was Feng Yao's first time seeing the night view. He was amazed by the scenery of Wushuang City below. He quietly lay in Ji Liyuan's arms, silently admiring the beautiful view. The wounds from Yinggu are very unique, Ji Liyuan said. The only treatment is to bathe in spirit water, supplemented with jade skin ointment. Then it can be fully restored. Feng Yao replied, I didn't expect the ninth prince to find spirit water. Ji Liyuan's voice slowly sounded. You soak here for an hour. The wound should heal by then. It can also increase your cultivation. Feng Yao didn't refuse. Ji Liyuan controlled his wheelchair to move aside. But after a few steps, he stopped and returned to Feng Yao. Give me your black jade bracelet too. I'll keep it for you temporarily. Feng Yao was slightly stunned. Thinking that he would be naked while bathing, it would indeed be inconvenient with Ziyuan nearby. So Feng Yao obediently took off the black jade bracelet. He handed it to Ji Liyuan. Thank you for your trouble. No need for such formalities between us. Ji Liyue smiled. Then he turned and went toward the green pine tree nearby. He stopped only when he reached the pine tree. His fingers caressed the black jade bracelet in his hand, the movement extremely gentle. gentle. Ziyuan couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. "Take away your stinking paw." Ziyuan secretly glanced at him, suspiciously thinking, "This blind man, has he discovered that I'm not a black jade bracelet, but a beast? Otherwise, why does he always take me away when Yao Yao is bathing?" Ziyuan became increasingly puzzled. "I must find an opportunity to test him properly." 2 months later, Feng Yao quietly left the city with Yue Wei, heading to Muyu Forest to train for a while. After Su Zhe and others scouted the surrounding area, they returned to Feng Yao's side. With a respectful expression, they asked, "Master, there are unusually more people in Muyu Forest. Should we continue or move to another location?" A look of confusion appeared in Feng Yao's eyes. When things are unusual, there must be something strange. Something must have happened in Muyu Forest. Go and investigate further. Su Zhe, Hong Ying, Chao Gu, each of you take 10 people. Stay and scout the surrounding area. The rest return to Wushuang City. Regarding Feng Yao's arrangements, the Yue absolutely obeyed without any resistance. In an instant, this originally bustling and crowded valley became quiet. Feng Yao wasn't afraid of others noticing that people had camped here before. It's common for people to camp when training in the forest. So Feng Yao saw a group of people walking towards here in the evening twilight. It must be said that Ji Zijuan was indeed very handsome. Feng Yao recognized him at a glance. Beside him was Feng Qingyue, wearing a pink dress and a cloak. Seeing this, Feng Yao immediately turned to leave. He angrily thought, what a coincidence to meet them everywhere. A soldier glanced at Feng Yao, turned back, and said to Ji Liyuan, "Your Highness, there's someone ahead." Feng Qingyue immediately turned to look, her face darkening. Looking at the man's back, she had a familiar feeling. She suddenly leaped forward, unable to help but shout, "Stop! Where are you running?" She blocked Feng Yao's path, her eyes flashing with a cold light. "Crown Prince brother, isn't he the guy who appeared in the black market?" As he spoke, Feng Qingyue grabbed Feng Yao's shoulder. Seeing this, Feng Yao pushed his hand away, then struck Feng Qingyue with a palm, knocking him to the ground. As expected of the future crown princess, such impressive authority. Seeing Feng Qingyue being bullied, Ji Zijuan immediately issued orders. Everyone attack. Those guards leapt forward, directly charging at Feng Yao. Feng Yao looked at the approaching guards, the corner of her lips curling into a slight arc. After training in Muyu Forest these days, it was a good opportunity to test her skills. The sound of swords being unsheathed filled the air with cold light. Feng Yao raised her hand and grabbed the opponent's wrist. Then with a squeeze, the air was filled with the opponent's miserable scream. Raising her long leg, Feng Yao kicked the opponent away. Seeing Feng Yao easily defeat a star martial artist with one move, Ji Zijuan's eyes couldn't help but show surprise. Feng Yao inwardly commented, "What a bunch of useless trash, not even worth fighting." Seeing so many people attack yet fail to subdue the brat before them, Feng Qingyue's face was instantly covered with a layer of gloom. He drew his long sword. The star soul power surged within his body. He swung the sword in his hand. A sharp whistling sound seemed to howl through the air, heading straight for Feng Yao. Seeking death, Feng Yao's feet flashed, and the sword light barely landed where she had been standing. The grass where she had just stood instantly turned black and charred. Seeing his attack miss, Feng Qingyue's brows furrowed slightly, his eyes showing a trace of displeasure. Without thinking, he rushed forward again. Feng Yao noticed that Feng Qingyue's aura was similar to her own. She knew that in these 3 months, Feng Qingyue had also reached the level of a 2-star martial artist. But Feng Yao was confident she could defeat Feng Qingyue. A red light surged in Feng Yao's sword. Instead of retreating, she advanced, and a sword light immediately met the attack. A clear ringing of swords resounded. Feng Qingyue felt his arm go numb, his wrist involuntarily shaking. The long sword in his hand flew out of control. Feng Qingyue's body was involuntarily pushed back, retreating 5 or 6 steps before barely stabilizing his stance. Feng Qingyue's face instantly turned pale, a strong sense of humiliation flushing his cheeks. Damn it, when did this brat become so strong? Could he have hidden his strength to the point of defeating me, a 2-star martial artist? He suddenly felt extremely embarrassed, actually losing to someone else. A sharp light instantly surged in Feng Qingyue's eyes, a palpable killing intent slowly emerging. Suddenly, a star soul array appeared under his feet. Brilliant starlight made his surroundings appear dreamlike and hazy. Unfortunately, the expression on his face was too gloomy, completely ruining this aesthetic. Intense flames surged around the fire lion, looking terrifying. Seeing Feng Qingyue actually deploy his star soul, Ji Zijuan was only slightly surprised. Instead, he looked curiously at Feng Yao across from him, wondering if she could withstand it this time. At this moment, Ziyuan angrily said in a low voice, "These two had a conflict with you in the black market. They didn't make a move in front of everyone, but now, in this forest, they're probably going to settle accounts with you." Feng Yao made hand seals, and a star soul array also appeared under her feet. A phoenix shadow appeared behind her. In an instant, the entire valley echoed with clear phoenix cries, even causing a scene of birds paying homage and thousands of birds singing in unison. Ji Zijuan's expression instantly became serious. A phoenix star soul, he was definitely worth recruiting. Yue might ruin things. However, Feng Qingyue was in a rage, with jealousy burning in his heart. The fire lion star soul roared angrily and pounced towards Feng Yao. Feng Yao made hand seals, and the phoenix star soul behind her rushed towards the fire lion. The two star souls collided fiercely, instantly exploding into countless sparks. Ji Zijuan quickly shouted to stop. "Where? Stop!" Feng Qingyue's figure swayed, his face instantly turning pale. Then he spat out a mouthful of blood. Feng Yao's face also turned pale, the qi and blood in her chest churning, feeling very uncomfortable. However, she didn't spit blood. The phoenix demon sneered. Such a noble crown princess, resorting to sneak attacks. How despicable. Feng Qingyue looked at Ji Zijuan with her eyes. "Crown Prince brother, this guy is definitely strange. He always wears a mask on his face. He must have some secret he can't reveal." A warrior standing behind Ji Zijuan said in a low voice, "Your Highness, do you want me to take action?" At this moment, several figures were seen quickly approaching the valley. One of Ji Zijuan's warriors exclaimed, "Your Highness." One of the arrivals was Suja. Apparently, this pressure was easily dispelled by Suja. After confirming the Phoenix demon was unharmed, he cast a cold gaze towards Ji Zijuan and the surrounding guards. Seeing this, Ji Zijuan was stunned. The other party's aura was higher than his own and very strong. It was actually a warrior. He thought to himself, "As the crown prince, I only have 4 warriors protecting me. His forces must be considerable." While Ji Zijuan was lost in thought, dozens more figures were seen rushing from behind. Ji Zijuan's warriors shouted sternly, "Your Highness, they're all of warrior strength." The newcomers ran behind the Phoenix demon, called out "Master," then turned their cold, sharp gazes towards Ji Zijuan. Ji Zijuan was filled with doubt and fear. He immediately lowered his posture and said very respectfully, "Sir, we had no intention of offending you. Please forgive us." In his heart, he raged. It's all because of that brainless Feng Qingyue. If we accidentally offend a great power from outside North Yin, everyone here will die today. Feng Qingyue was very disdainful. Her eyes glared hatefully at the Phoenix demon. Hong Yi angrily rebuked, domineering, "What are you staring at? Keep staring, and I'll gouge out your eyeballs." The Phoenix demon sneered, "Hurry up and take him away. If he angers me again, heads will roll." The Phoenix demon ignored Ji Zijuan and Feng Qingyue, turning to leave with Su Zhe, Hong Ying, and the others. Watching them leave, Feng Qingyue felt extremely wronged. Her beautiful almond eyes were filled with tears of grievance. "Crown Prince brother, why didn't you stand up for me?" Ji Zijuan's face immediately darkened. His ink-black pupils swirled with anger. "Before coming to Muyu Forest, I warned you to follow orders. Today, you almost ruined everything." Seeing his anger, Jin Yu's voice became smaller. She looked at him timidly and fearfully. "Crown Prince brother, I just wanted to drive them away." Ji Zijuan's lips curled into a cold, disdainful smile. "Drive them away? Just now, that person had over a dozen warrior-level guards. Even if they killed us all here, they could do it." Feng Qingyue's eyes widened in disbelief, her face full of shock and humiliation. "Crown Prince brother, Yue knows she was wrong." Ji Zijuan waved his sleeve. "If we fail to get the 1,000-year fire spirit fruit, because of you, you alone will bear Father Emperor's blame." After saying this, he angrily turned and left. "Master, we found out. It said that in Cloud Marsh Valley of Muyu Forest, 1,000-year fire spirit fruit is about to ripen. No wonder so many people came to Muyu Forest today. Even Ji Zijuan and Feng Qingwei are here. With such a good opportunity, the Phoenix Demon, naturally won't miss it. The Phoenix Demon said to Hong Ying beside her, "This is an excellent ingredient for refining the 10,000 spirit pill. Ordinary people who take it can increase their lifespan, maintain youthful looks, and live without illness or pain. For martial artists who take it, it can increase their star soul power by 10 years. Naturally, there will be many competitors." Ji Zijuan spotted the Phoenix Demon in the distance and couldn't help but show a trace of excitement on his face. He quickly walked over to the Phoenix Demon, bowed, and said, "Sir, we meet again." The Phoenix Demon was very averse to Ji Zijuan's persistent behavior. She cast a cold glance at Ji Zijuan without saying a word and walked away. Hong Ying and the others also gave Ji Zijuan cold looks before following. What bad luck! Having been given the cold shoulder, Ji Zijuan's face darkened slightly. But he didn't get angry, because someone who could bring so many warriors must not be an ordinary person. Prince Ji's subordinate said, "Your Highness, I'm afraid this matter won't be easy to handle. This person is surrounded by many military officers. If we get the 1,000-year fire spirit fruit, he definitely won't let it go easily." After careful consideration, Prince Ji finally made up his mind and said, "We'll snatch the 1,000-year fire spirit fruit first. Heavenly treasures rightfully belong to those who can obtain them. If he truly wants it, we can negotiate an exchange." Feng Qingwei overheard their conversation, and her eyes filled with resentment. She had accompanied him through mountains and valleys, enduring hardships, all for the 1,000-year fire spirit fruit. She only needed a bit to heal the scar on her face. Who would have thought that her brother, the Crown Prince, would use it for an exchange? This cannot be, but healing would be too slow. She couldn't marry the Crown Prince like this. Absolutely not. As Feng Yao and his group arrived at the entrance of Cloud Marsh Valley, a guard reported with a grave expression, "Master, there's miasma in Cloud Marsh Valley. Those who entered first have been poisoned. Some have even died." Hearing this, Feng Yao's face showed surprise. "So that's the reason. We're the poisoned people." When Feng Yao went over, he found many people had been poisoned. Their faces were pale, lips bluish-purple, brows furrowed, and they seemed to have difficulty breathing. Feng Yao pushed through the crowd. He approached one of the poisoned men and said, "Brother, I am a healer. I can treat you for free." Hearing this, the middle-aged man's pale face immediately lit up with joy. He invited Feng Yao to check his pulse. After diagnosing, Feng Yao said to Hong Ying beside him, "Bring me my bag." Hong Ying quickly brought the bag. After carefully examining and verifying, Feng Yao fed the medicine to the poisoned man. Half an hour later, the poisoned man's face gradually returned to normal. He was no longer pale and had no difficulty breathing, proving that the toxins in his body had been neutralized. Suddenly, the surrounding crowd rushed towards Feng Yao. "Young man, please have mercy and save me too." One poisoned person even lunged forward, trying to snatch the antidote from Feng Yao's hand. Seeing this, Feng Yao executed a beautiful spinning kick. In an instant, he violently kicked the attacker away. The surrounding people, who were like wolves and tigers, were all intimidated. That person's body flew back hard, crashing into a rock and dying on the spot. For a moment, everyone stared but dared not approach. The power of that kick was truly terrifying. Feng Yao's face beneath the mask was cold and cruel. "If you don't want to die, come at me." Everyone was struck dumb with fear. They no longer dared to harbor any ill intentions and stood frozen in place, watching as Feng Yao's group left. A military officer beside Prince Ji spoke up, "Your Highness, what should we do now? They've all left." Hearing this, Prince Ji frowned and said in a low voice, "We must get the fire spirit fruit before him. If we encounter him, try to negotiate a trade if possible. As for the others, they could be killed on the spot." An incense stick later, Feng Yao arrived at the fire spirit tree. A faint fragrance of fruit permeated the air, smelling quite pleasant. "Master, is this the 1,000-year fire spirit fruit?" Hong Ying's eyes were filled with excitement. He quickly ran towards the 1,000-year fire spirit fruit. At this moment, Hong Ying had already reached out his hand. He grabbed for the fire spirit fruit. "I didn't expect it to be so easy to get." "Be careful. At this moment, Feng Yao's feet executed a 100-turn step, instantly transforming into a blur as he swiftly moved. Before Hong Ying could grab the fire spirit fruit, Feng Yao pulled him back in one swift motion. That 1,000-year fire spirit fruit suddenly moved, opening a bloody maw and revealing sharp, terrifying fangs. It viciously bit towards Hong Ying. Hong Ying's face changed color. This is not the 1,000-year fire spirit fruit. It's a red tongue. He was pulled back a few steps by Feng Yao. Feng Yao quickly drew her sword and raised it to block. The sharp fangs immediately bit onto the blade, creating a piercing clang. Red Eagle observed, "Master, this snake is truly cunning. It even has such thoughts. This is not an ordinary snake, but one with some intelligence." Feng Yao's face beneath the mask was cold and solemn. She said gravely, "This is a rain-eating snake. It has eaten the 1,000-year fire spirit fruit, which is why its color is so similar to the fruit." Her gaze moved past the crimson feather snake's body to the fire spirit tree behind it. On the lush green fire spirit tree, there was only one fire spirit fruit left. At this moment, the crimson feather snake roared angrily. Its fierce snake eyes surged with cold light, staring at Feng Yao and her group opposite. Feng Yao raised her wrist and said, "Ziyuan, this crimson feather snake is yours to handle." Ning, who was coiled around her wrist, immediately dropped to the ground. It transformed into a dragon-like shape, instantly growing to a body over 10 zhang tall. Its eyes, like large lanterns, flashed with a cold light. Ziyuan looked at the snake disdainfully and spoke coldly. "Tiny crawling snake, hurry up and surrender." Everyone looked at Ziyuan with shocked and surprised gazes. A 1,000-year dragon speaking human language. The master could even contract such a beast. By this time, Feng Yao had already reached the fire spirit fruit. Ziyuan said casually, all right, you can go now. This last fire spirit fruit, consider it a contribution to me." The crimson feather snake obediently nodded, but didn't leave. Instead, it slithered closer to Ziyuan. The crimson feather snake gently nuzzled against Ziyuan with its head. One black, one red, one dragon, one snake. The scene was quite ambiguous. Ziyuan immediately cried out in shock, swung its tail, and flung the crimson feather snake away. It angrily warned, "I warn you, don't get so close to me. I protected my purity for 1,000 years. It's not for a small snake like you to defile." The crimson feather snake, caught off guard, was thrown away. Its eyes immediately showed a look of grievance. Ziyuan felt a chill and said, "Don't look at me with those grieving eyes. I'm not for you to fantasize about." To avoid the crimson feather snake's persistent gaze, it simply transformed into a jade bracelet and flew onto Feng Yao's wrist. Feng Yao glanced at it and thought, the crimson feather snake is actually quite cute. Having obtained the fire spirit fruit, Feng Yao didn't intend to stay longer. "Let's go." Just as she was about to put the fire spirit fruit into her storage ring, suddenly a sharp whistling sound rang out. A piercing cold light flashed through the air, penetrating through layers of mist. The miasma quickly approached, aiming directly at Feng Yao's chest. Feng Yao immediately dodged with a quick step. Hong Ying blocked with her sword. They saw an exquisite crescent-shaped curved blade, now held in the hand of a beautiful young woman. The young woman's contemptuous gaze fell on Feng Yao. She spoke coldly, "Hand over the fire spirit fruit, and I might spare your life." Before Feng Yao could act, the crimson feather snake came, swinging its tail towards those people. In an instant, they were knocked away. They all fell to the ground, lying scattered all over. Then the crimson feather snake angrily opened its mouth wide towards the young woman, hissing furiously as a threat. The young woman was momentarily stunned. The fire spirit fruit was taken by them. Why would it attack me? Before the young woman could think further, the crimson feather snake lunged at her. She had no choice but to defend herself. Soon, the young woman was in a very sorry state from the crimson feather snake's attacks. Gone was her previous pride, replaced by endless fury in her eyes. She flicked her wrist, and a talisman instantly appeared. Light surged, and the time talisman disappeared. In a moment, a whistling sound was heard, and an old man wearing a gray robe instantly appeared before her. "Young miss, what has happened?" The girl angrily pointed at Feng Yao across from her and said, "The fire spirit fruit is in his hands. Old son, go kill them and that snake, and bring back the fire spirit fruit while you're at it." When they saw this old man appear, Hong Ying and the others immediately changed their expressions. The old man in front of them gave off an extremely dangerous aura. This old man was clearly above the level of martial general. He was a martial king, an accomplice. This made the girl even more arrogant. None of you will leave Cloud Marsh Valley alive. At this moment, the old man's sharp gaze locked onto Feng Yao. Like a high and mighty ruler, he said, a few small martial generals, including a weak martial master, and even a beast dare to hurt people from my Lan family. You're seeking death. As soon as the old man finished speaking, he rushed out like a hurricane. In an instant, he appeared in front of Feng Yao and raised his hand to strike Feng Yao's chest. The old man's speed was extremely fast, so fast that Feng Yao had no time to react. Feng Yao's body trembled, and he was instantly sent flying like a kite. Under his mask, his face instantly turned pale, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. Feng Yao's eyes surged with overwhelming anger. He looked up at the old man with hatred. Jin Zhong asked Ziyuan, "Is there any way to kill him?" Ziyuan's cold voice sounded in Feng Yao's mind. "The opponent is at the martial king level. If I use my power, that old monster will discover it, but I can temporarily transfer power to you. However, you will endure great pain." At this time, Hong Yin, Su Zhe, and the others had already stood in front of Feng Yao. "Master, you leave first. We'll hold him off." The old man sneered disdainfully. "Today, none of you can escape." The old man's hands moved, and Star Soul power surged in his hands. He struck out fiercely with his palm. Hong Yin, Su Zhe, and the others hurriedly prepared to defend. However, that fierce palm shadow didn't land on them. A hissing sound rang out. The crimson feather snake was seen painfully curled up on the ground, with fresh blood gushing from its mouth. In an instant, the crimson feather snake was on the verge of death. A cold light flashed in Feng Yao's eyes. In an instant, Feng Yao's entire being erupted with a boom, his aura suddenly soaring. He directly rose from a 2-star martial master to the realm of an ultimate martial king. Under the silver mask, a pair of narrow, deep phoenix eyes surged with terrifying cold light. Killing intent rolled off him in waves. This scene made the old man and Lan Yi's group across from them widen their eyes in shock and disbelief. Especially the old man, whose wrinkled face was full of disbelief. This is impossible. No one could do this. Instantly change from a 2-star martial master to an ultimate martial king. Even a pill couldn't achieve this. Feng Yao pushed Hong Ying and the others aside, his gaze cold as he looked at the old man and Lan Yi across from him. "Now your time of death has come." As he finished speaking, Feng Yao's figure moved. He raised his hand and brought down the long sword in his hand, fiercely stabbing towards the old man opposite. As the sword light got closer and closer, the old man narrowly avoided it at the last moment. But unexpectedly, he was struck hard by Feng Yao's palm. The old man's face instantly turned deathly pale. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His eyes widened in disbelief. What kind of sorcery did you use?" Seeing this, Feng Yao immediately launched another attack. This time the old man didn't dodge and was stabbed in the chest by Feng Yao. At this moment, the old man's turbid but sharp eyes were filled with viciousness and malice. He suddenly grabbed Feng Yao's shoulder with one hand, while the other hand tightly gripped the sword in Feng Yao's hand. His face revealed a crazy, ferocious expression. "Even if I die, I'll take you with me." As he finished speaking, his body began to rapidly inflate, like a balloon being blown up. Seeing this, Zhu Zi, Hong Ying, and the others were shocked and rushed forward. "Damn, it's self-detonation again. This luck is really terrible. Keep running into people who self-detonate." Feng Yao was both shocked and angry. A martial king's self-detonation was enough to level the entire valley. At this moment, he had no time to think. He let go of the sword, wanting to retreat from the old man's side. But the old man's dry palm was like an iron clamp, firmly gripping Feng Yao. A hint of despair appeared in Feng Yao's eyes. This time, there was really no escape. The vast power of detonation exploded in his ears, like thunder from the ninth heaven, making Feng Yao's ears ring. The old man said, "You can go reincarnate together." Ziyuan glanced at him, instantly feeling speechless. To Feng Yao's surprise, he didn't feel any pain at all. Feng Yao opened his eyes and stared in shock. He saw a tall, straight figure standing in front of him. Ziyuan's face was full of shock. At the critical moment, he actually withstood the martial king's self-destruction. The man was seen spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood. Feng Yao quickly stepped forward to support him. He looked at Feng Yao and asked, "How are you?" Feng Yao looked at him with a complex gaze. "I'm fine," the man nodded. "That's good." Then his figure flashed and disappeared into Yunza Valley, like a stream of water, just as he had come before. Silent, leaving no trace. Feng Yao looked up at the miasma and clouds, gazing at where the man had disappeared. His eyes showed a thoughtful expression. "Why did he save us?" Ziyuan shook her head, puzzled. There shouldn't be anyone with such power in the North Rock country. Ziyuan immediately said, "Someone's coming. After I transfer my cultivation to you, I'll be weak for a long time. If they take advantage of the situation, we'll have no strength to resist." When Feng Yao, Hong Ying, and others saw the four people in front of them, their faces changed. Because the four people were none other than Ji Zijuan, Feng Qingyue, and two martial generals beside Ji Zijuan. Feng Qingyue looked at Feng Yao and shouted, "Quickly hand over the fire spirit fruit." Seeing this, Feng Yao said in a low voice, "As the crown prince of North Flame Country, he must have made full preparations to get the fire spirit fruit." Hong Ying angrily said, "Damn it. If it weren't for the urgency and lack of antidote pills entering the valley with Wei, we wouldn't be in such a passive situation." Just then, a hand grabbed Feng Qingyue's ankle, pleading, "Save me." Seeing this, Feng Qingyue immediately drew her sword to stab the person. "Wait!" Ji Zijuan quickly shouted, looking at the dead person on the ground. "Could it be Lan Yi from Tianyi City?" At this moment, Feng Qingyue turned her head and shouted, "Crown Prince brother, don't let them escape." Feng Yao turned his head and smiled. "You've discovered us." Knowing that if they didn't run now, when would they? Just now, supported by Ziyuan's power, but waiting any longer might not be sustainable. Ji Zijuan was very hesitant. This person had vast power, and if they offended him, it would be troublesome. Feng Qingyue looked up at the hesitant Ji Zijuan and said, "If we can get the 1,000-year fire spirit fruit, His Majesty will surely give you the Tianhu decree, and your position in the court will be more secure." Ji Zijuan narrowed his eyes. He knew this was when the opponent was at their weakest, so he waved his sleeve. Ji Zijuan and the two martial generals beside him quickly rushed forward. Hong Ying, seeing this, immediately turned back to block one martial general. She quickly kicked away the other martial general who tried to sneak attack. She even caught Ji Zijuan and took him hostage. "Make them all back off, or I'll kill you." Hong Ying's curved blade coldly pressed against Ji Zijuan's neck. Ji Zijuan's face turned slightly pale, his expression cold and ugly. "All of you back off." Hong Ying raised her hand and fed Ji Zijuan a pill. "Within half an hour, you'll lose all your cultivation. Don't try any tricks." Unexpectedly, she alone could withstand the attacks of many of them without being defeated, and even captured him. Ji Zijuan had no choice but to make everyone retreat. Half an hour later, Ji Zijuan's cultivation slowly recovered. "Crown Prince brother, you're awake." Feng Qingyue's face was full of worry. Ji Zijuan looked at the dying Lan Yi. "Send a message to the Lan family in Tianyi City. Tell them Lan Yi was brutally killed while trying to seize the fire spirit fruit, her body destroyed." Hearing this, Feng Qingyue's eyes flashed with killing intent. "Crown Prince brother, I'll go kill Lan Yi now, then send the portraits of those people from earlier to the Lan family." Feng Yao thought he couldn't return to the Feng mansion, or Feng Qingyue and the others would discover him, and it would worry his grandfather. So he decided to go to the Ninth Prince's mansion to recover. Returning to the Ninth Prince's mansion, Ji Liyuan's face seemed excessively pale. At this time, Feng Yao took out a purple sandalwood box and handed it to Hong Ying beside him, indicating for Hong Ying to give it to Ji Liyuan. Lu Changjun, standing behind Ji Liyuan, showed a shocked expression in his eyes. The most surprised person was Ji Liyuan himself. Unexpectedly, the 1,000-year fire spirit fruit that Yao Yao risked her life to collect was actually meant for him. At this moment, Lu Changjun beside him quickly reached out to take it, saying with delight, "Thank you, princess. I heard that the master guarded the fire spirit fruit for 2 months, and after a roundabout way, it still came back." After a while, Ji Liyuan raised his head. He seemed to look at Feng Yao, the corner of his lips curling into a slight arc. "Yao Yao, you keep this fire spirit fruit. If it can be refined into a pill, the effect will be better. If 10 pills can be produced at once, then everyone can have a share." Feng Yao couldn't help but chuckle. "You think this is making candy? There's only one fire spirit fruit. If it fails, everything will be lost." But Ji Liyuan was determined to return the fire spirit fruit to her. I believe in you. Go ahead and refine it. A sense of ambition rose in Feng Yao's heart. All right, if that's the case, I'll study it carefully. A smile appeared on Ji Liyuan's face, a smile from the heart. Feng Yao looked up at Ji Liyuan in front of her, surprised that he would trust her so much. While Feng Yao was in a daze, Ji Liyuan's gentle and pleasant voice softly sounded. Yao Yao, in 2 months, we'll be married. If you have any ideas on how to decorate the bridal chamber or any requests, you can tell me. Feng Yao paused, and the air was silent for a moment. Yao Yao, if you don't want to get married, you don't need to worry. If one day you have a better place to go, I will let you go. If you have nowhere to go, you can continue to stay in the 9th Prince's mansion. This will always be your home. If one day you don't want to stay, you can tell me. I just hope you won't leave secretly. Feng Yao quickly explained, I'm not unwilling. I'm just a bit confused. In her heart, Ji Liyuan was a person worthy of respect and admiration. She didn't know if she liked him, but one thing was certain, she didn't reject him. Before Ji Liyuan came, there was a smell of blood in the air, but not this strong. You're injured. Ji Liyuan was slightly stunned, then calmly said, Yesterday, I encountered some villains while out and got slightly injured. It's nothing, Yao Yao. Do you feel unwell anywhere? Feng Yao's lips curled slightly. I'm much better. Thank you for taking me in again. The next day, Feng Yao returned to the Feng mansion. Recalling the previous events, Feng Yao couldn't help but wonder, I've never left North Yin country. Why would this person with such strong power risk his life to save me? Seeing this, Zi Yuan asked, What are you thinking about so seriously? I'm wondering who that person was who blocked the martial king's self-destruction for me. Zi Yuan puzzled. The only one who would sacrifice their life to save you is your grandfather, but he doesn't have that kind of power. No one in the entire North Yin country can see through my true form. Only Ji Liyuan seems to know of my existence. Perhaps he has some unknown secret. Just like how you can temporarily possess my power, maybe he can also move freely temporarily. Feng Yao suddenly opened her eyes. Then why would he risk his life to save me? Haha, Zi Yuan laughed. Because you're the future 9th princess. All right, I'm going to sleep now, Feng Yao said as she took off the bracelet on her wrist. You stay here for now. What? I transferred all my power to you earlier, and I'm still weak. At least get me a spirit water pool to soak in. Feng Yao joked as she turned her head. There's no spirit water pool, but how about soaking in a teapot with spirit tea? Zi Yuan immediately complained. I used a secret technique and will be weak for a long time. I even let a nameless little snake take advantage of me to get you the fire spirit fruit. And this is how you treat me. All right, since you sound so pitiful, eat all of these. They'll replenish some of your cultivation. Seeing these pills, Zi Yuan was instantly overjoyed. You little girl know what's good. Early the next morning, Madame Lu and Feng Qingwei came to Feng Yao's door, fuming with anger. Madame Lu shouted, Feng Yao, you bitch, did you kill all the people from the Lu family? Zi Yuan thought, how come bad luck finds us again so early in the morning? Seeing this, Feng Yao walked out and quickly replied, Aunt, you call me a useless waste who can't cultivate every day. How could I possibly have that kind of ability? Lady Lu approached Feng Yao and said, that night, he told me he wanted to teach you a lesson. After that, he mysteriously disappeared along with all the guards, vanishing without a trace. Did you have something to do with it? Feng Yao replied coldly. So Aunt's nephew said he wanted to teach me a lesson, and you not only didn't stop him, but also didn't tell me. I thought you went to great lengths, even to the point of causing the death of Uncle's fiancée, to marry into the Feng family. Surely you must have had deep feelings for the Feng family. But in the end, Aunt, you're still a member of the Lu family, aren't you? Lady Lu's face instantly darkened. She raised her hand to slap Feng Yao. You worthless wretch. How dare you spout such lies? I'll tear your mouth apart. Seeing this, Feng Yao stepped back to dodge. Just then, a man's voice was heard. Stop, Feng Yuqing demanded. Feng Yao, you'd better explain everything clearly. Perfect timing, Feng Yao quickly said. Uncle, are you referring to the incident years ago when my aunt who had just married into the family suddenly took her own life? My current aunt should know that incident very well.